Hello everyone and welcome to the LightBringers podcast with your host, me, Jebro. We're hosting today a podcast episode number 7, I think. I should probably check that before I actually come on. We have some awesome people. Yes, they can see you, so you can wave at us, Scott. You're allowed to do that. It's a very awkward wave though. You've got
I do that.
That's allowed, that's okay. I think I've got everyone's names in the right places. Yes. Okay. We have Kroof, we have Outtro, and we have Fornax as well. With extra...
extra avatar action.
Oh my god, please do the wave again.
She said no. She said no, baby, no. I'm gonna get the tongue.
She did. Amazing. Okay. This episode is going to be about Jade Bot. We're also going to talk about Echovald Wilds. Yes, we're going to talk about End of Dragons. Yes, we are. It's going to be an actual return to the expansion which came out. Good stuff. Well done. We're also going to be talking about blimps and people's lifelong goals to see them and using small children as buoyancy. Not really.
What can I say? I was a point
Y'all missed some
baby.
stuff.
Yeah, there was a bit of a pre-show that we would not let you in on. I'm sorry about that.
And if you're not watching Untucked, you're only getting half the story. Anyway.
Is that still a wait? Is that show still on?
Drag Race?
No, there was a show. Was there a show called Untucked?
I was doing a Drag Race reference.
Yeah, no, I know, but I think there was a show called that as well, wasn't there?
There might. I mean, it is a separate show. It might be.
Oh, okay. I can't remember. I'm pretty sure it was.
IMDb.
Sorry.
Just gonna IMDb real quick.
Okay, yeah, do it. I just don't have time, Kroof. I'm hosting a podcast. You can do it. You can do it. That's
It's
fine.
a company. It's
Okay.
casual menswear. It's established in 2011. Anyway.
Just looking at Fornax's faces to see how they're reacting right now. Kroof, it's good to have you back.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, no worries. Tell us what you do, where you do it. Say yourself for a sec. Let's go.
I'm just like a quaint little person, not doing too many things on the internet, you know. I sometimes post videos on YouTube at Kroof. Sometimes I stream here on Twitch, Tuesdays, Wednesdays, Thursdays, Fridays, and sometimes even Saturdays, but that might have to be put on hold. I also tweet sometimes.
That might have to be put on hold. Why?
Because I'm doing other things, Jebro.
Okay.
Because I'm doing other things. But if you also want to catch me throughout the day, I'm on Twitter and even on Discord, so come on by.
And Instagram.
Sometimes.
Sometimes, okay. Fornax, aka the Crichton Herald as well. Your face. Welcome
guys.
back. Hi. If you can't see the video right now, check out the YouTube VOD or the Twitch VOD or the Spotify VOD because you can watch video on Spotify now. You'll be able to see Fornax's VTuber avatar. Is that the right way to say it? I don't know. I think so.
I think so, yeah.
Oh,
I think it's an avatar. It's a virtual thing that I made, kind of. Yeah. Hello. It's nice
You
to
put
be
some work
here.
into that.
Yeah.
Hi.
Tell us what you do, where you do it, and the hand
okay.
movements as well while you're doing it would be appreciated.
Thank you. I'm trying. I've got things to say. So I make videos on YouTube. I occasionally stream on Twitch. I've made this avatar to do all that. And if you want to find me, it's the Crichton Herald basically everywhere. Crichton Herald on YouTube. Crichton_Herald on Twitter if you're interested. And occasionally Jebro lets me on here to fuck with his day. So
Wow,
yeah.
you already said swears, and it's literally
Sorry.
been like 5 minutes. Everyone,
Okay.
clean. And it won't be clear. I just got part with that.
It will not. It will not.
No. All right, I'll do it. I'll put it down as clean, and they'll fire me.
It's
Okay.
fine. It's fine.
Oh my god. And last but certainly not least, we got our Scotch, who is a new guest to the podcast as well. It's awesome to have you here.
Thank you.
Last minute as well.
Yeah, probably last minute is probably the only way you could have gotten me here because it let me not psych myself out.
Ah, okay. Fair enough.
Yeah. I am Otterscotch. Right now I'm only streaming Tuesdays Guild Wars 2. But I do like to throw in a variety stream when I can afford to. And do a lot of crafts and stuff. So you guys want to learn about needle felting. There we go already. No, needle felting, it's great. You stab felt into submission, you make it to be whatever you want it to be.
Yeah, we've seen some of your little, like the dinosaur when you showed us in Discord and stuff was cool. And
I'm right up there, but you can't see it.
Oh, nice, cool. Oh, was it dragon? I can't remember.
Yeah, the one I showed you was a little dragon. I make these really cool little fish too. Sounds
cool.
Yeah.
Do you sell them? Or do you just make them?
I will. Needle felting takes a really long time, so I have to build up a backlog.
Do you have a shop you want to tell us about?
Not yet.
Okay.
I'll be using Ko-fi when I do.
Cool.
Yes.
Soon.
Okay. I need
One
to.
day.
Then make sure you get on there, people. Do it. Go and follow them on Twitter. That would be appreciated. Okay. I can't stop looking at Fornax's avatar. I'm just like transfixed on the.
And hey, she's in Seitang Province. She's in game. She's above and beyond us all.
It's just a little hand doing that. It just kills me every time. Okay, sorry. Oh, you've got a heart as well. Wow. Okay. This is actually
I got all
amazing.
sorts of shit going on here.
This is good.
So many.
Is good. It's very sweet. Okay.
Thank you.
Hi.
I'm not gonna look at it anymore.
Awesome
Okay, so
be a
I'm
great
just doing the random things,
Derailed.
and I will just crap myself randomly. We're gonna talk about the Jade Bot today, as well as Echovald Wilds. Let's see if I can find some. I've got a little bit of footage of the Jade Bot, and like just getting it. You get into Kainang. Is it Kainang where you first get the Jade Bot? I think it's pretty much a story.
Yeah, it's like you first set foot in Kainang and you get it there.
Yeah. And I've got the little mission as well where you can go, whee, there's a little quest. Story anyway. At this point, I think we just got the skiff, right? And then we go to Kainang, we potentially drop someone in the water, and then you can do. I did a couple of times. And then you board Kainang? You don't board. What was that? What's the word when you
Disembark?
disembark? Yes.
Yeah.
No, it's not board, is it? No. You disembark.
I mean, you can board a continent.
Can you?
I mean, language, it can be used to describe that. You wouldn't typically say it, but you would not be incorrect.
Gets the point across.
That's true. I
Have
think
more
people would
faith in
understand.
yourself, Jebro.
I'm tired.
And less faith in English. More faith in yourself, less faith in English.
Oh, that's true. In
Yes.
English as well. Well, all English.
Mm-hmm.
It's not exactly. I thought Rita would tell us. Yeah, Rita will tell us if it's right. You can give us many more words. Disembark we use. Oh wow, the footage is right there. It's right there. No, stop. Pause. Okay. Oh wow, you got a ton of rewards as well with that. What was like your first reaction? Because I was at first, I was like, I just got the skiff. I've just done the story, and now I've got a Jade Bot. Like, why? Why do I have all of this stuff all in one go? And it took me so long to get here, and I kind of only just got fishing at the beginning, and then I didn't really get much else until the skiff, and it was like a whole map. There's a bunch of story. Was this a good place to kind of get the Jade Bot, do we think?
I think for the sake of Kainang City, it makes sense because it is such a vertical map and there are so many zip lines in the actual map. So it makes sense. But in terms of like a lore perspective and pacing, it was very fast. And you just finished the story and I was like, here's a Jade Bot. And I would maybe have liked to maybe experience kiting without one first, just get that sense of the city running everywhere, having to walk, finding ways to maneuver, maybe even creating your own Jade Bot and going through more of a process with that. But I think it definitely serves the gameplay more than the story. So it was fine, for me. It was cute.
Yeah, a little bit more fanfare would have been cool too, because he's just like, oh yeah, I happen to have this kind of spare one, and they just kind of give it to you all of a sudden, and you get the pop-up, but no, it doesn't feel like any kind of accomplishment.
True. That's a good point. How to make masteries feel like it's an accomplishment.
Oh yeah, that's a very good point. I found it odd because we just dealt with a bot that was malfunctioning, and then they go, here, have a bot. This one will help you. This one just tried to kill you, but it's okay. Calm your boobs. This one's here for you, and everything's fine. And you're like, awesome, thanks.
That's true.
Totally give me this thing that's gonna kill me, maybe.
Yeah. And it's small and friendly, so you let your guard down, and then it's like, Jade laser beams, and you're like, ah!
And it didn't really... There were no assurances of why it wouldn't turn on you.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, stuff normally works okay, kind of. But I guess you find that when you're in Kainang as well. Like, you kind of just find out that things are broken everywhere, including just the city. And the power.
Yes.
And
that's
everything.
So deep, Jebro. The political structure.
Yeah,
the
there you go.
economic
It's
structure,
true.
The technology. It's all a facade.
I was like, well, I mean, yes. Yes, very much so. We've talked about Kainang. You missed your opportunity there. That was like 10 months ago.
It really feels like it.
It does feel like it. In terms of...
It has been a long year.
It has, it really has. So you have to go up to a little heart to actually... kind of learn how to use it a little bit better. Like, and did you actually have to go to the heart to start using it? I don't think you had, or did you? I can't remember.
You could use it to do the zip line, I think, but you had to get it to do anything else. You had to go finish the heart, I think.
Oh, okay.
Technically, you could still do everything at the heart before you completed it. It's just the heart allows you to maneuver with the Jade Bot better. It's mostly to get used to like the vertical movement of it, because when you go throughout End of Dragons, many of the terminals that you did at the heart don't pop up, at least in my experience.
Yeah.
It's just kind of like a fun little heart to do to just, entertain yourself with a Jade Bot.
Yeah, it was a story step, wasn't it? That was it.
Yes.
Yeah. Oh yeah, because I did it, and then it was a story step. Yeah, I remember that. Yeah, I remember having to do that twice. That was annoying. I was like, damn, just did this. Might have felt good. Okay. I'm starting to remember some things that Ben said. Ben's gone now, unfortunately, ain't it, Ben P?
Oh, shout out to Ben.
Shout out to Ben. Good man. Yeah, so getting that and then doing the heart, and I think I'm still a little bit sad about the Jade Bot generally, and just because it's not kind of out more often. But in here, I'm looking at the footage, and it looks like there's a bot kind of following me. Oh, there was in this little story mission. They give you kind of a Jade Bot, and there's a Jade Bot like... That's how I want the Jade Bot to be. Like, following me. Just running around.
Controversial. I highly disagree.
Yeah, no, go for it. Tell me why.
I think it's smart that they didn't... Well, they originally were going to make it something that was permanently out. And because they made the Jade Bot character bound instead of account bound, I guess that would make more sense. However, I feel like you just be seeing a lot of Jade Bots everywhere. And having that rendering on the engine, I think they also said that it stressed it out a little bit too much and it wasn't necessary. And what if you still wanted to use your Jade Bot functions, but you didn't want it to mess up your character, or you didn't want this companion always following you around? Though I will say, it is highly, highly cute. And I would like a mini of it at least. I'm surprised that they did not launch with a mini of the Jade Bot, but maybe in the future they'll grant us that.
Yeah, I guess it's like the animations and yeah, like you said, another physical thing in the world and having that 1v world and etc. might be a little bit of a pain in the butt. Yeah.
See,
Why did
they've
you-
got the. Sorry.
I was to say, but why did you both seem to like be in favor of this? I want to hear your thoughts about like this mastery system and like the cuteness of it, I guess.
Well, there's the cuteness of it, but they've already got this down fairly well by now, where they can make certain things visible only to the player. So I just kind of always thought that they were going to give it just player specific, so you can see your own but nobody else's, or maybe like be able to dismiss it like you can with the mech, the engineer's new mech.
True. I guess that would have been a nice middle ground too.
I thought that perhaps it would be nice for them to tie the functionality of it into a mini. So you have the mini out, and when you interact with it, it reacts like it would if it was always there, but you can dismiss it, and so it ties it in. So you can have it when you want it, and you get the role play of it, and then it buggers off when, because they suppress them when the map's too busy, right? So yeah, that was what I would want.
Yeah, that sounds.
That'd be interesting to give like minis a function in game other than just like this idle thing.
Yeah, certainly that makes sense. Why not, Irene?
Mini battles.
No, I'm
We're
sorry.
gonna have Jade Bot battles. I honestly would kind of love that.
Was it Polymach was the potential miniature battle arena?
Yes.
Yeah, that would be great. Well, they have it in World of Warcraft. They have a mini battle system. And in Final Fantasy, they don't have necessarily mini battles, but the pets have different personalities and they interact with one another.
Love that.
Yeah, so that's really
true.
sweet.
What was it in Lion's Arch down on one of the beaches? There's this red ring that looks kind of like a section of like it's made out of the ArenaNet logo,
Yeah.
and purportedly that was supposed to be the original Polymach arena where you could battle your minis.
Huh.
I've never heard it, like found a source on this, but this is what I've heard several times.
Okay, that's interesting.
I had heard that the Polymach was going to be like an Asura thing.
They do in the starter zone. The Asura have these little
Punch bot
tables out with
things.
the little punch bots.
Oh, they
I
have
don't think
those
you can
too.
actually play it.
Yeah, you can. Yeah,
You
yeah.
used to be able to.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. It
I
used
think
to
you
be
can do
hard,
it for
wasn't
the heart.
Yeah.
Can you? I wonder if you still can do it for the heart.
I actually don't know if it's still.
Did they
I know
change
it
it?
worked at some point. I don't know if it works anymore.
I think I tried to do it relatively recently, and it I don't think it was working.
I don't think it's worked for a while, sadly.
and then the real Fornax comes back.
Yes.
That was funny. If you don't know what we're whoa, damn! If you don't know what we're talking about, Fornax's avatar is making some interesting faces. Okay, so when you get the Jade Bot, the Jade Bot's power core can be upgraded. I'm just reading off the thing. Attach sensory arrays. Oh, there's a lot to it. You've unlocked the Jade Bot mastery line, view the mastery panel, blah blah blah. You can equip new Jade Bot modules at workbenches. That's something I wanted to talk about. So with the Jade Bot, if you don't know what we're talking about, you need to Guild Wars 2. It's a little bot that follows you around. Well, not necessarily in the world, but it's there somewhere in the ether, and then it pops out. It's stealthed, obviously. That's my roleplay story anyway. And
Yeah.
you can program it with different cores and what's it called, modules or whatever. And you can gather things, or you can get or you can sense things. So like with mine, and also actually, it would be cool to know what modules do people have. I have the one where you can get extra leather. You get leather from things, and you get and you
leather.
can find. Sorry, yes, I'm English. I'm from London specifically. So the THs do not come out. And also secret chests. You can find secret chests everywhere.
Oh,
There's like a
That's probably
that one.
nice.
yeah, that's
Yeah.
my one.
What rewards do you get from those secret chests?
I think I got some armor once. I can't remember. But not secret. I think you find hidden chests, not secret chests. Like hidden chests, they're like I think this is
Well,
right.
if something is hidden, is it not a secret?
I mean, there is that.
I guess so.
There.
But there's also, you can just find them on the map. They pop up on the map more as well. And I'm not sure if that happens normally. I don't think it does. But you know, the normal chests that you can get around Ender Dragon's maps.
Yeah, they'll just be tucked in a obscure cave or something, guarded by a veteran or whatever.
Yeah, maybe. Or they're just literally, there's one under, I got one the other day and it was like underneath the pier which is opposite where you go through the portal to Kainang City. There's one like tucked right under there, like under a rock or something. It's really random.
Oh, look.
Yeah, it's just these weird long kind of boxes. They're not even chests. I don't know. But what do
There's a
people have?
whole achievement locked around finding all the hidden boxes, and if you see like a circular swirling ball of wind sort of like whipping up, that's an indication that that's in the area, and you have to kind of interact with the rocks and play silly buggers chasing after the wind to get your
I
turn.
love those so much. That's honestly been one of the highlights for me.
That is the only sense of map reward that I get by playing this expansion.
Oh, okay. I'm not actually sure I've done that. Maybe I haven't. Okay.
It's this whole inspired by Koroks in Breath of the Wild scavenger hunt. You find these little spirits that have little puzzles for you to solve.
Oh. I got correct. Okay, right. Oh, damn. I need to go and... Oh, man, the time is just something I don't have much of. Awesome. I'm going to have to go look at that a little bit more. Okay, so what modules do people have on their bots that you find useful?
Just the ones that I got from the story.
Wow, Kroof, you've been doing so much for so long, and you were literally talking about how it costs so much money to get materials, and that you traded some other things like for gold, and like you can get free extra materials by getting a Jade Bot and getting an extra core. Yeah,
They require research notes.
Oh, research notes. Oh.
Research notes, Jebro. And I also have 35
Savino.
characters. So
What?
There's wait.
It's a little difficult to like manage everything.
You have 35 characters?
Yeah. And only like 7 of them have a Jade Bot core. Maybe 8.
Just get a shared inventory slot.
No. I'm not playing that game. I'm playing like everyone needs their stuff. It belongs to them. I believe in capitalistic ownership, okay? So, anyway,
Wow,
but I just have
ownership.
I just have the core story one, so the gliding one. And it does gliding is a baseline mastery. It's the mount endurance regeneration one. And I've gotten like upgrades from doing the strikes, but I haven't, like I'll get like the tier 3 upgrade, but I haven't gotten the tier 2 yet to be able to use that. So it is kind of a ladder, and I have been slowly acquiring research notes by salvaging pieces of crafted gear.
Yeah.
But I've been spending those on getting Fashion Wars skins.
Wow. So
I respect that.
Like, I mean, yeah, that's fair. We were talking about you were talking about your fashion wars, about how long it took you to make your character recently, right? Oh, that's good.
Yeah.
It's okay, people.
It was a while.
It's okay.
It was important. It was an accomplishment. I'm proud of her.
Yeah, exactly. So what, Scotch and Harold, what do you have like module wise or core or whatever it is? I can't remember what they're called. Is it modules? It is modules, isn't it? Extra ones? Or do you care?
Sounds right.
Like, yeah. Is it like, oh, I don't care that much?
Well, I had this very strange experience the other day where I ran out of bloodstone dust. So
interesting.
Yeah, it was weird. And I equipped the bloodstone dust module to make sure that doesn't happen again.
Oh, okay.
That's cool, actually.
Yeah,
You can
It's
have-
surprising that you ran out.
Yes,
I do
that
as
was. It was disturbing.
I'd be like, what is going on? Did someone hack into
Something
my
was
account?
not right in the world. It was weird. I was afraid.
You're petrified.
I should get the trophy one though. The trophy one does look good.
The trophy,
The trophy
one.
module.
Yeah,
To, like,
I'm
give you tier 6.
sort of in the same place though as Kroof, because I have 6 characters that I play regularly, and then there's all the other alts. And it's just so expensive and so hard to keep track of who has what, and then you have to go to a Jade, the actual bench to swap them through, and they've really just done the basics for most of them.
Yes,
I had a Fornax sigh then,
Yes, I
which
did
sounds
too.
like an addition to the conversation. What was the?
it's yeah.
Wait.
Just...
Do we need an intro? Do I need music?
No. It's just that I don't like. I was not expecting them to be character bound. It was odd. It was weird. I don't know why they've done that. I don't know why they just don't have a like they deal with the builds or something like that. Have a little swap system. I don't like it. So I'm having to buy all these bloody cores for all my characters and then figure out where to put them. And then why can't I just equip them where I am? Why do I have to go to a station? And why are there no stations anywhere other than in Cantha? Why?
I mean, you can buy one.
It's like 300 research notes and like 5 gold.
Also, they're horrible. I don't like those. Boo.
What do you know? Like?
Research notes.
Oh,
Yeah.
Oh, we can talk about. I want to talk about the research notes.
I've got
I
things to
actually
say
made a
there
video.
too.
I mean, well, first of all, let Fornax finish up their conversation, like telling us what they've got on their modules.
I would type what I've got on my modules, but from clicking all those research notes, I think I've got carpal tunnel syndrome. So.
Oh yeah, because you can't use all, can you?
Nope.
Just annoys me. It's my noodle.
Like
Anyway.
salvage all. We don't know her.
That's fair.
It's funny because they've done that where they've been adding salvage all, they've been adding all these ways to avoid so many clicks,
Yep.
and then they do this.
Yeah, it's true actually.
Weird.
It seems like a very obvious. Like it had to have been play tested. Like, and it's like, and especially now that we're like what, a month or like about a month or two into End of Dragons, and we haven't gotten a consume all button for those. It is kind of surprising.
Yep.
So, okay, so consume what? So we got a bit of feedback here for the old Jade Bot. So consume all for the research notes. Having
And probably salvage all too.
yeah,
Yes.
salvage all. And oh yeah,
And
of
to
course.
quickly note, I think they are and we're working on it, because when you use a normal salvage kit, things that you've crafted, I believe, pop up too, but they don't get consumed. So maybe something got like spaghetti coated and it like went to like the normal salvage kit and not the research salvage kit. I don't know. So
Okay.
There was a lot of evidence of some real spaghetti code issues with the research note kits anyways. Like there was a lot of really weird bugs for the first 2 weeks.
Oh.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that was an interesting time. I'm going to show you. I made a video about this. So what I was obsessed with this actually for a moment. I think I got a little tiny bit fixated on trying to find out whether or not what items were the best, what you could get for how many research notes you could get for or whatever it was by salvaging. And I started to make different things. I made food, I made different level armor, I made blue armor, green armor, rares, and ascended, just to like kind of show the stream what I would get. I got so many dislikes on this video, it's funny. It was just like, people were expecting some really easy guide, and there's just me like going through this process of like, oh, I wonder how many you get from this. And like people just got pissed at me. I don't know why. And it ended up being some like mithril like jewelry piece. I was like, how many? You always get mithril, right? You always get that. So I was just like, how much have I got of one thing, like this excess of stuff? Because I always keep, like when I get because I've got 750 max in my vault of like items depositable. I keep extra stuff because I'm like that, and then because I have to for some reason, I can't just sell it. I have to keep it, and so I had like obviously stacks and stacks and stacks of like mithril and other stuff, and I just got rid of it this way. Research notes, that's how I was able to buy like my modules and stuff. And then the old like depositable jewels that you add on to stuff that you just never use, either greens. You know those greens you get randomly in chests and boxes sometimes, and just like deposit blah blah blah, it goes in there. I had like 250 of this one thing. I was like, damn, yeah, that's actually somewhere I can use that for once. in this random recipe to upgrade this random thing so I can get this module on my Jade Bot. And I was like, damn, this is actually kind of convoluted and long-winded, and I'm not sure if this is necessary. And I kind of enjoyed that one process, but once it was done, it was done. And I can just repeat it if I need to, or just find another way, depending on what items I need. And I would have to go out and farm more stuff to potentially get more research notes for this currency, which is fairly new, another currency in the game, which I'm not sure we need. And I was just like, this is kind of long, actually. I'm not sure if I'm enjoying this. And I was enjoying working out how many research notes I would get from each item that I crafted. Then I was like, why though? And it's like, I don't know.
I do like that it does go back and update those older recipes and give you more incentive to use those lesser materials. Yeah. So I appreciate that. But it is the only way to get research notes at the moment. And that is something that I have kind of struggled with because I'm not someone who enjoys crafting or going to crafting stations. I prefer to get my currencies and my rewards by playing events, doing dungeons, doing raid bosses. So it is something that is not in the forefront of my goals or in my to-do list.
So would you buy it off of the trading post, like the module? Maybe.
Yes, I buy level 1 modules off of the trading post for my characters. And I also don't have jewel crafting up to 400, so I have to purchase them off the trading post. And I don't think I'm going to be leveling jewel crafting just for Jade Bot stuff.
I think that this is like a bloated mechanic that is pushing people who are new or who don't enjoy crafting into the arms of the cartels as they're kind of siphoning up all the money as they make low level drama.
It does sound like we went from this cute Jade Bot to cartels very quickly.
Rama's got to get on that case, do some detective work with the cartels of the Black Lion Company.
Yeah,
next storyline.
Yeah, no, I think that, so here's the thing though, stuff that was really inexpensive, it crafted foods that people could actually use to help level their characters. Now it's all getting gobbled up for research notes for people who don't craft.
Yeah.
And it's just, it's distorting the market. Maybe they were expecting it. I mean, I make the assumption they have some sort of economist in there who's going to say what effect these things are going to have. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. If they got rid of this, I would be super happy. Yeah.
I don't mind it, but I guess you have to add on to the level of that it is character bound and not account bound. So it's even more pressure because if someone has a lot of characters, you're going to need to do this multiple times over the course of many months to years to come. So I don't mind entirely that it is a part of the crafting system. I would like to see research notes be a reward for doing map events in End of Dragons, similar to the way like trade contracts were granted via Path of Fire. Currently, the map rewards for End of Dragons, as been commented by developers themselves, are lacking, and I don't feel like people are replaying those maps. And I think luck is cool and karma's cool, but if it's just luck and karma, that's not a huge incentive. But research notes as a possible reward to incentivize people to go back and play and to interact with the new rewards and the new systems, I think that would be a nice way to maybe offset the pressure a little bit.
And I had a little bit of a realization. Part of the reason you may have gotten so many downvotes on that video, for the first 2-3 weeks, ANET was constantly changing what did and did not give you back rewards. So you may have stuff in your video that no longer gives rewards, and that might have been part of the anger and confusion there.
Yeah, I made it thankfully, I think a little bit after this, but I think you don't get as much. I know people with this kind of thing as well, they demand an answer like very, very quickly. They're not like, you know what, I don't want to watch an 18-minute video of your experience of doing this thing. I want to just do the thing. And I learnt this lesson because I made some videos for getting waypoints and not waypoints, getting hero points and other things in the new maps. And they got a crap load of views, but like you have to do it. You have to get to the point, because otherwise there's a couple of people that just be like, "Why are you talking at the start?" I'm like, "Dude, I'm just introducing the video." Like they just want the thing. They just want the path A to B, and they just want the flipping answer. And if you don't give it to them, they're just like, "Boo, hiss, etc." Downvote.
That's how information videos work.
Yeah, that's annoying. So I learned my lesson.
100%. I've got so many. That's why every one of my videos now has chapters and timestamps, so that if I want to talk a bit more, I can, and I'll just direct them down below. If you're not interested in this, move to the next chapter. You know.
Yeah. Started doing that.
They take no prisoners.
It's true. It's so true. I don't do YouTube much anymore, but like I normally chuck VODs and stuff over. But yeah, I relearned again. But you're right. Yes, Scotch. They did change that, because you could get a lot of research notes for like salvaging. I think pots from like Halloween events, like really stuff that you just had an excess of, like Christmas event, holiday stuff, and they removed all of it. I think the potions from like Scarlet event as well that you could salvage for research notes. There was loads of stuff, and they just removed all of it. And it was just like, people are getting these things way too easy. And it's like, well,
it still is a little confusing, because I crafted some exotic armor with the intention of salvaging it with the research kit, and it was not able to be salvaged. And
really? Interesting.
I was kind of confused, because it was like, you can salvage anything that you craft, but it might be like a cutoff of like the type of like if it was introduced in Path of Fire or not. So it's still a little confusing.
Sorry, that's fine. I'm not laughing at you. I'm laughing at Fornax's face.
I did lose out on a lot of materials from that.
Yeah. That's interesting. I wonder what it was that.
I think they were like diviner stat gear or something. I'm not sure.
Oh.
I never quite understood why they were so aggressive in removing sources of research notes, because they are an account-bound material. There's not a lot of ways you can convert it back into more gold. It was just odd.
I think they just wanted people to spend more time on it. I think this is a time sink, isn't it? Oddly.
Probably, possibly.
Yeah, it's the one area of almost like vertical progression, or no, horizontal progression, I guess that would be, of like increasing your character's stats, because also the cores do offer vitality. So in a way, it is a little bit of a increase in power / survivability. So it is an interesting system that they went down with this, but I kind of like it, because we don't have a lot of character-bound systems in Guild Wars 2. So, you'll probably isolate 1 or 2 characters to be your main Jade Bot users and go from there.
There doesn't seem to be a lot of functionality. For example, it's not used at all in WvW World. There's nothing. You don't get any functionality from it, and I think that's PvP. A missed opportunity.
You do in PvP, actually.
Wow.
Oh, you used to.
Oh, did something mess up? Would it actually take the vitality?
What? Oh, sorry, the Jade Bot.
Yeah, the Jade Bot.
Oh, the Jade Bot. No, the Jade Bot would take leather from people's dead bodies.
Yes,
they put that back in, didn't they?
I think they
for
did.
World versus World, they did.
No. In PvP, you get it as well. In 5v5s. Yeah,
Wow.
I just get little random bits of leather every match.
Yeah, I think they
like,
put it back
so
in for World versus World, because it's more wide open.
Yeah, it's fun. I don't know, actually. I'd have to go and log into my cam. Maybe I'll do that on a break, but like, I have to double check, because it was really fun. I was like, I'm getting all these random little bits of like extra stuff on top of my reward tracks. This was pretty cool. I was like, yeah, because you just open the random little bag or whatever it is, and it's like, oh, from new Jade Bot, and I'm like, what? Like in PvP, you just won the thing. I actually think that's really, really cool. But hey,
New Jade Bot efficiency: skin your enemies.
They were Asuras when I got the thing, so maybe.
And depending on what enemy type you kill, you get like fur, you get bark from Sylvari, you get tough leather from Norn.
Well, I mean, I don't know. Maybe that's something they've actually done in the game. We just don't even know, like the specific type of leather. I think it would actually be fine. Maybe they tell us the ins and outs of it, like probably the Herald is thinking about right now. and writing entire lore videos for. You see
And
next
my
week.
cute Jade Bot hovered over their body and took out a laser and sliced them open. I saw their muscular structure.
So what we need is the most dropping from char players. So char players are just hunted to death in PvP and
God.
PvP world.
Chars are going to be like the most valuable because you're like,
Return of the War.
Yeah.
Oh
Move
no.
back to Guild Wars 1.
Oh, this is how it starts. We've worked it out. The humans and the Chob go back into war, and this is Outtro's fault, because because of Jade Bots, because they can get more leather from their bodies.
and you get cultural armor pieces for the char, but you have to use human skin to make them. So like chars have to target humans.
This is canon now. It's okay. Does this work? This Harold's just like, yes.
Yes. But hang on, so right,
Someone should clip that.
if you
We're
get
gonna give
enough,
that to Arena. Sorry.
if you get enough char pelts, you can make a char pelt rug for your guild hall, right?
And you can
With
make
a
like a
head and
cloak.
Yeah.
And it could be Ritlocks. Ritlock could be a boss in a strike. Oh my god. All the content is just completely coming together now. Oh.
Gosh.
Jade bots mean more to us than we
This is too
realized.
much. This is too much.
Oh,
But it's
dear.
interesting talking about rewards because I think that the Jade bots inhibit a certain amount of reward for End of Dragons maps. Having the modules gives you extra rewards, which is nice, but in the actual like open world experience of End of Dragons maps, you have Jade tech chests and you have to have a Jade Bot battery in order to open them. And from my experience, they're like the most common chest that you come across when playing out in the open world in Cantha. And so when I'm playing on a character that doesn't have a Jade Bot core, it is really punishing to actually play in Cantha. And even if I'm on a character that has a Jade Bot core, you get to a chest and you realize that you don't have any batteries. And you're like screwed because now you have to go find a battery and like detour yourself for like 2 or 3 minutes. And like, you're like, I don't know where they are. So I think tying the reward system to the Jade Bot core, having those chips to increase reward is totally fine. But making it mandatory to have a Jade battery to open world chests when they're so common, I think is a flaw in terms of the open world design. That was a long-winded segue. Sorry.
I have an issue with the batteries in general, but, you know, tangential to that.
I mean, we can talk about the barriers. I don't mind. And Kroof
I
was talking
find them just completely... Immersion breaking is kind of a cliche term, but it totally is. Like, I'm exploring Echovald Wilds, this empty... It's not empty because it's just old and abandoned. It's empty because there have been gang wars driving people out. And yet up on the top of a tree, just tucked in a nook, I find a fully charged new Jade battery.
That's a good point.
Sitting there, but I have to have it because I can't do so many things in the map without it, and so they had to put it there, but it just doesn't belong there at all. And it always feels so awkward to have to, like you said, go find a charge, go back to the thing you needed to do. Oh wait, I ran out of charge, I need one more charge, go find another battery because you depleted the closest one. It's one of the clumsier aspects that I've found.
Interesting. I didn't even think about the immersion.
Yeah,
breaking,
and
but-
I didn't think about that either. It's so true, though. Any thoughts, Kroof and Harold, on what Scotch said?
I just agree. I completely agree that and also there's, I don't know. I mean, they have to have a limiting factor for it. It cannot just be endless. But I feel like it would be nice. Do you know those watches where you move your hand around and the kinetics of your body charge the watch, right?
Yes.
The turtle ammo already works that way.
There you go. There's a solution where you don't have to have these things scattered everywhere. It doesn't make any sense. And why don't they deplete? Why aren't we having to re-energize them?
Go find the batteries and charge them back up again.
Yeah, it doesn't make any sense. I mean, I know that like thermodynamics are not a real thing, but
Yeah.
it's just it pops you out of it kind of bounces off the windscreen and makes you remember that you're you know yeah, it's
Not just in a game, but you're being constrained by this mechanic that they made in the game.
yeah, and it's clunky as all hell. It's clunky. I think they need to revisit it if they're going to expand it, and I think it's got plenty of scope to be expanded. But they need to rethink it. And I don't want these things littered over every single map in the game. I think that would be awful. So
Yeah, and I think because in my experience, it's so oversaturated with the chests. That's my main issue. I wouldn't mind seeing a couple instances in like a couple corners of maps where you have to interact with a battery or something to like open a door or do a puzzle. I wouldn't mind that. But it's
Kind of
just
supercharge your bot.
yeah, it just seems like so like general and so like it's not deep in any way. It's not really compelling puzzles or like I have to think about how many charges I have to like do this puzzle. It's just I have to go find this to open this chest that I found and worked like 2 minutes using my mouse to get up here. And you're just like, I have to go back down now. So yeah, I was really, taken aback by some of the implementations of the batteries.
They may have intended it to be more of, like you were saying, this economy of energy where you're thinking about, do I have enough for this thing? But it just doesn't come across that way. I think that I would love to see it the way you said.
Yeah.
And there aren't any, but now this is such a main feature. Like they're going to be everywhere in every map for the future now. They should be, shouldn't they? Right?
I think there's a way to get around it. I think, well, if you're still going to go with like Jade Tech chests, if you're going to go with loot drops that require you to have this battery function, if you make it to where you can open it baseline, that would be a good thing. But if you happen to have a battery charge, you get like 1 or 2 extra bits of reward. So it still incentivizes you to maybe think about the battery and say like, oh, I have like 1 charge left. Do I want to save this for like to open a door or to get somewhere? Or do I want to save this for like get a little extra reward for a chest? I think that it's just so constant that, as Fornax had mentioned, it feels like it might become like it'll be scattered throughout multiple areas in the future maps as well, which might break some like, it just feels overpopulated.
My immersion.
Yeah, my immersion.
Yeah, I wonder if. Yeah.
This is my polite. I have an idea.
Yeah, that's good.
Why don't they just have, if they're afraid of people, misusing it, why don't they just have a cooldown timer on it?
Yeah.
So that you can't, if they're wanting people to not be able to go from one place to the next to the next to the next, why not just have a cooldown timer on it so that we can't abuse that mechanic?
Mm-hmm.
And you could specify it so you can't open 17 different chests in like a minute, but all the movement mechanics which make the city much more traversable don't have a cooldown on how many times you can go up and down the thing. That's not going to hurt anything. That's not game breaking, is it? The ability to traverse the map. I don't know.
Because their teleporters require a charge too. Yes. And then we have other areas of the game like Divinity's Reach where you go into like a magical portal and you're instantly up top. So it is, now that you mention it, is a strange direction of like limiting mobility. But I guess you kind of also have to incentivize that in a way because of mounts. So maybe that's something they're trying to juggle, like Springers and Skyscales and Raptors, and incentivizing those more so than just easy teleportation systems that we've had.
They may be underestimating how compelling their movement system actually is, though.
Ooh. See?
I mean, even World of Warcraft is ripping it off now.
Oh,
there you go. A cheeky smile. Go on, Alex.
But like the value, that's beautiful. That's absolutely beautiful.
Oh my god. Sorry.
But the value, the zip lines, for instance, the teleporters, they move in a way that is different but not at odds to how the mounts move. The zip lines can get you. I have a sky scale. I use it all the time, everywhere. But the zip line goes faster, more direct. I don't have to worry about maintaining my altitude and resetting my, So it works independently. The teleporters take you from this point to this point, and honestly, for me, that keeps me from getting lost.
Yeah, that's true.
And so they have their own value, and they're compelling on their own.
They're also much quicker. To get those zip lines, to get different places in the city are really well placed, and they get you there. And it's much easier than arsing around with your sky scale, which like clips on stuff, or bashing your bunny's brains out on roofs. I always feel like an asshole when I do that. Right? It's bad.
Oh, our poor springers have a lot of concussions.
No, if you're on a larger character, you're on the same height as the springer, so you're right there with it.
Yeah,
You're technically a Norn at that point, so you don't need it.
He's good on comparing screenshot. That's true. Yeah, I do think I do like the zip lines. I remember the first one I went on, I was like, "Ooh, this is very cool." I was like, "I'm an engineer, and like this just feels like I'm kind of, I don't know. I like the whole idea of like all the tech and stuff. I think." What?
I'm sorry. I had a brain blast of like an elite spec idea for like engineer. You have like sand squall portals. What if like engineers could place down zip lines for a future elite spec, and they just use that as a teleportation
That would
system?
be really cool.
That'd be cool, right?
Well, that would be cool.
That would be
awesome. Yeah.
Anyway, continue.
What, like a mesmer portal kind of thing?
Yeah, but it's like a zip line. It goes like ultra fast.
What?
Or you could put like the ring teleporters that they have all over End of Dragons with the kind of like the Stargate teleporter rings where it just pops up
Oh
and
my
you pop
god,
in
if
and
I had
drops
mini
down.
Stargates, I just started watching SG1 again, and I'm like, ooh, in that 4:3 ratio, I'm loving it. It's good.
Your comment about engineer and zip lines was just like elite spec idea.
Yeah.
Maybe we probably need to have some elite spec ideas for the future.
Oh,
actually.
I'm ready.
Oh god, we've still got Echovald. We've still got loads of stuff to talk about.
Get to End of Dragons.
Let's talk about End of Dragons first before we go to the next expansion. Although those podcasts thinking about expansions were so hype. Okay, so Jade Bot. I'm just wondering about if there's anything else I need to talk about. There feels like there is, but also like how much do I want to go into it on the book? Because I like them, but also at the same time, like I feel. It's weird because in Dragon's End, they are confusing, I think, for new players. And when you have to go and get a charge, and then you have to go and get the charge again. Well, technically, you're getting a charge, so you can get a charge of a defensive and an offensive stat. So first of all, you need. What's the max charge you can get? Is it 4? I can't remember.
Mm-hmm.
It is 4. Okay, so then you need 10. For each one, and maybe they brought it down. I can't remember. I know they changed it a bit. But you have to explain to people that you need the Jade Bot to get these charges. But first of all, you need to get charges from batteries, so you can go and get a charge from these defensive things and the offensive things to get extra stats, so we can kill the boss. But also, you are hoping, yes, exactly, Drone Herald. But also, you're hoping that this has been done throughout the maps because they're still on the previous map, so you can actually do it. So you're hoping that people have learnt this before. I don't think people have because I didn't, because I didn't give a crap what they were. I didn't even go up to them, and I was just, by the time I'd got to that point, I was just like, oh, okay, I can actually do this, because I didn't get to the meta anyway, because the maps don't evolve that way. Like, they just don't. Like, other than the last maps, you cannot naturally go into a meta which is going to complete in the game at the moment. You just can't. Like, unless you're on the older maps before EOD. It doesn't feel like anyway, because they're still broken. I don't know. But like, if I'm in Kainang, like, and I'm going around getting these defensive and offensive buffs, and I'm like, cool, when's the meta happening? And there's like 2 of us standing there at the end. It's just like everyone's already clumped onto a map. I still think that whole system is clunky, but that's another podcast. But like, there is just like this idea of like, why am I getting these buffs for? What's the point of this? Like, I mean, can't I just not do that? I'm just like, no. Sorry?
Oh, sorry, I was just missing. Oh, you wanna say something, Fornax? Sorry.
Oh, you have got a question mark as well. Oh, okay.
Yeah. Okay, question to the group.
Yeah.
Am I
just
the
a
only
comment.
one? Okay. Am I the only one that took an embarrassingly long time to figure out how to use the Jade Bot in the story step where the Jade Bot has to be used in the person's castle?
In the mansion?
Yes.
So-
Oh my god.
Oh.
I kept forgetting
love
that I
that.
had it. And there were points. There's like this one point where you're supposed to send your Jade Bot through a window, right?
Yeah,
to go and
yeah,
pick
yeah,
up
yeah.
a charge. I figured out that if you jump on the table, jump on the back of the chair, you can jump and glide through that window.
We love a QA tester. We love a QA.
Because I was like, what do I have? I have no way to get through that window. I need to get through. I completely forgot I even had the bot.
Yeah.
See, I had the opposite. Well, I knew how to use it. It was more so just I thought that the window was actually a painting, so I didn't even try to like use my bot through it. So I was literally stuck in that room for 25 minutes, and then I eventually realized like, oh wait, that's another room, not a painting. And then I deployed. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's actually, I was playing through this with Dusty in chat. He's the one who figured out jumping on the chair. I have to give credit where credit is due.
There is some really cool little fun bits. Like there's a heart in Echovald, which we're gonna get to soon, where you're in one of the factions bases, and you have this option. You have to use the Jade Bot a lot actually to get this done quicker. And you can use it to go through vents and stuff, and you can take control of it. Like Obi's saying in chat, the remote control stuff, actually really kind of mini game stuff like that. I don't mind too much. It's cool. I'm doing this because it feels like I've got a little controller in the game. But like you could go through this vent, and then you could. I can't remember what you had to do. You had to like disarm something, or I don't know, gather something. I can't remember. And then you could come back through it. Or you could use it to, I can't remember if you could electrify stuff. I can't remember, or repair things. There was different bits and bobs you could do in there. But like, there were different instances. In the story instance you're talking about, Harold, I actually kind of didn't, it was a bit long, but it was a puzzle. Because I remember you had to funnel different power, like charges, from different places. Oh god, I bet you hated this actually, because the charges, like, it's right, yeah. All the stories starting to come back to me now, because that led up to the fight afterwards, which was very cool. I'm not gonna, no spoilers, but like,
good.
Moving the charges around was quite cool. I felt like it could have been a bit refined. Definitely refined, or just shorter, straight up shorter. But because you were going from room to room, and you had to move one battery charge to another to open a door, and then there was a door on the side up on this next level, and then it was just all higgledy-piggledy, and you had to, there were bridges that came up that were just made of like hard light, and I was like, damn, there's all this cool tech everywhere, and this is actually pretty cool. But then I looked, like, because I was doing it on stream, and I was like, damn, we've been here for like 45 minutes. And it's taking
a long story
ages. But am I enjoying this? And I think the answer was yes. I think the answer is also it's too long. But I did like the fact that you felt like this was a necessary thing for me to do this. But I get that if you weren't into it, that could have been a real annoyance.
Personally, I loved it.
Yeah.
I loved that whole instance. Now, are any of you Zelda fans?
Yeah.
Played any Legend of Zelda? It felt like a fire temple.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Like
okay.
straight up, I felt like I was doing one of the fire temples in a Zelda game, and I don't know why in particular it feels like the fire temples, but it definitely wasn't the water temple.
Okay.
It wasn't that bad, but the whole economy of moving this bit of energy to this place and then again over here, and the way it changed the room in order for you to get to a new area, it very much felt like a Zelda puzzle, and I loved it.
I'm just disappointed that we don't have that kind of ability to just take control of the bot whenever we want to. Make that a part of the mastery, extend the mastery to that, because there's, for me, I do a lot of in-game capture for videos to try and make things look pretty. And yeah, it would be awesome, because half the time you're trying to either get your ass out of the way, or you're trying to back into things and you're falling into things, or you're aggroing monsters and it's just a pain in the ass. That would be amazing. And I don't think it would be game breaking because they've already walled off the maps with these invisible walls. And anywhere you can go on your mount, if they just allowed you to go on your Jade Bot, that would be like fun.
It'd be amazing. I'd love that. Yeah.
And from my experience, I have yet to be able to position it into first person mode. And correct me if I'm wrong, but I thought I heard like on the stream that you could do it in first person mode.
No.
That might have been a future.
Yeah, I think they said maybe they'll do it in the future, but like, because we were like that, weren't we? When we did the podcast, we were like, oh, this is going to be a really, really cool screenshot. And like what kind of what Crying Herald is saying and what you're insinuating as well is that we thought that was what the bench was for as well in the end, because just what you're talking about, right? So you're talking about Kroof is talking about the bench and being able to go into first person.
Not even the bench,
to go.
just like... You can't go into first person. So if you want to take a screenshot of your character, you have a Jade Bot in the way. And but they had mentioned you can use this to take cool screenshots, but you can't really do that because the Jade Bot is in the way because you can't zoom all the way in, but you can on your character. So
you can only go use the Jade Bot when you've got the bench out though, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
So you'd have like fixed locales.
Have I missed something here? I was like, damn, you can use it in places. What? I missed that one. Okay, good. Well, I mean, if you get your bench out, I guess you can. I'm not sure where you can get them out because I've not bought one because I've not tried it because I don't care. Sorry, but like, yeah, so that was a bit harsh. But yeah, because it doesn't do that. Yeah, exactly. Literally, because you know why? I would get it, Herald. I would get the bench, and everyone. I would get the bench if it meant that I could get into my Jade Bot. It feels really long-winded. Again, a bit unnecessary, probably. Because why else? I mean, the reason you get the bench is so you can change modules, right? That's the real reason why. But the other reason could be to set up screenshots, to do video, to do like, you know, all this kind of stuff.
You wouldn't be able to do that because you'd have to get a terminal. It's a different system.
It is.
So I've not actually used that. Yeah, so that's the thing.
So you can't. They're two separate. Terminals allow you to activate to go into the Jade Bot. Benches are just to modify it.
Oh my god, I've forgotten. Yeah.
If you can deploy a terminal, that would be nice. Well, I wonder why
wait. You can't do it through the bench. You can't do it from the bench?
You have to access a specific terminal.
And so they are situated in specific places and you can't get a
I only
mobile
know
one.
of two.
I didn't even
They're
know
in
that.
Pining City.
That's funny.
And in the Heart in Echovald. And that's the only places I know of. And maybe there's one in Arborstone. Because
there is except you can't access that at any time. It's only during the mini game.
Oh.
Yeah.
I'm leaving this face on my character until they fix this. This is just unacceptable. This is unacceptable.
That is a very cute, sad face. I'm going to say like that. I've only just started to notice that the eyebrows are moving as well. Like the eyebrows are probably one of the best animations. I'm not like dissing your animations. I'm just saying the eyebrows are very effective. Not many people think about the eyebrows, you see.
This is me blinking. This is me raising my eyebrows. This is all face tracking.
Tracks that really well.
Yeah. So when you see me smiling, it's because I'm smiling.
That's cool.
Wait, is this, and the sad face isn't you being sad? You have to force it to make it sad.
I have to force it because it doesn't have an auto tracker. But I had to set up the face so that it would be sad. Yeah, sorry.
Amazing. Okay, sorry. No, we're all interested by that. Okay, so there's a lot to work out there. I think ideally like the terminal and the bench thing, they just need to be one and the same and just be moved out. Like it doesn't make any sense that wouldn't be a thing you can do. I think they probably don't want people to have maybe 1 million benches out in the world. I don't know because maybe that would be like I don't know if it would mess up the map or whatever.
We already have the United Legion way station bench. No more
everywhere.
benches. No more tables.
That's true, actually.
ArenaNet loves tables.
True. They really do. Yeah.
It's an opportunity for another mastery step where you receive this the ability to place down a personal instance bench that only you can see even.
Yeah. So it's like your end of things rather than their end of things, maybe.
Mm.
Yeah, because that would be good. And then ideally, like Crown Herald said, I would like to have like an SPVP camera, basically, like arena camera. So if you don't know what I'm talking about, if you're watching or whatever, like you can get into, if you're in an arena in game, or if you are a partner and you can go into games like the tournament stuff, you can literally just fly around the map wherever you want. You haven't even got a bot or whatever. You just fly around. You've just got a camera, or you can click the eyeballs or whatever. Even if you could just do that, like you had eyeballs on the map that were like vistas, and like the bot gave you access to this thing that you could just move around, like even if it was just that, like just anything.
What about at vistas specifically, where any vista you have a mastery that can let your Jade Bot access the vista instead of you, and it just becomes this point where you can look around from.
And get rid of that flashbang.
That would be cool.
Every time I go into a vista and end up driving into like
flashbang.
Your screen just like flashes.
It goes
white.
It goes pure white. So if like I'm playing late at night, it's dark, all of a sudden it's just pure daylight in my face for just that frame.
I never thought about having a flashbang though. That's so good.
It's like, I'm getting ready to see all the beautiful things. Oh my god.
Joking aside, I suffer from migraine. It is no fun when the screen goes white. It's like
migraine buddies.
Yeah, oh,
my eyeballs get very sensitive.
Yay!
I actually kind of like them, but yeah, I didn't think about that. Oh, wow,
yeah, it's true.
AJ. Yeah, I didn't think, when it
does
first
not
happened,
help
I was
my
like,
constant eye strain either.
Yeah.
Just in the back of your eyeballs. I want to like dig my finger behind there and just give it a good scratch, but I can't.
Oh wow.
That's deep, literally.
It's very deep.
Explains why you're so good at the eyeliner. That's
I'm just trying to stab it. Oh.
Good lord.
I mean, this is part of why I got into the needle felting. Is you stab the felt instead of anything else.
Oh.
I live vicariously through you.
Wow, we're really getting into this now.
Oh my god.
Completely sidetracked. Sorry about that.
It's okay.
I'm also craft buddies because I make amigurumi, so yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
I can't count well enough to make the shapes consistent.
I like how Scotch is just slotted into this podcast perfectly. Like, new guest, they're fine. No worries getting in there. It's all good. We got stabbing eyes and all the things. It's all good.
Just gonna scratch your cornea, but not in like, it's a different way of like not abrasively, but like actually just scratching it. Feels good.
I guess.
It's hard to explain to non-chronic pain experiences just the things that you wish would help.
No, I know what you mean. I know what you mean. The options to have that kind of stuff is nice. It's good. Like, also it makes you feel thought of as well, rather than forgotten. Because I understand
to not
that.
get the flashbang.
Yeah, like, like colorblind settings and other settings which help, reduce the screen
flicker.
shaking. Yeah, flicker.
I love running triple trouble, but when the decapped worm comes up and every player's crit causes it to flash, there are many days I have to, like, as soon as the worm decaps, I run to a cliff and shove my face into the cliff because I can't look at it.
Okay.
They actually, it's very, not very inconsistent, but it's inconsistent in some areas. I believe for larger model mobs, they got rid of a lot of the flash. So many mobs will no longer flash, or at least
they missed the triple trouble.
They missed
decapped.
triple trouble, and they also missed Samarog in Wing 4. Because Samarog is a really large model, and I love that boss fight, but because I've done it so much, I have become so much more conscious of how Samarog is just flashing every single second. And visually, aside from the visual noise of it, it is like, it just is jarring. Even for someone who doesn't necessarily have a lot of that flash sensitivity, even for me, it's like, it's even too much because it's just so large in a raid boss. So yeah, they've probably missed a couple of those. So
yeah. And just any more visual accessibility settings would be amazing. Any way to turn down the just glitter bomb
skill effects.
Yeah.
100%.
Like Final Fantasy 14,
100%.
you can get rid of ally spell effects. That would be lovely.
Oh well, this is just a whole thing. This is this is a whole thing because this.
Sorry,
this
we've
is,
completely gone.
No. I will tell you as well. Really Geek just DM'd me on the side in Discord and was like, accessibility podcast when? I was like, yeah, we need to have that. We really do. Yeah. And it actually might come. I actually might do it in May because we've got Mental Health Awareness Month coming up in May, and I'm going to probably orient these around that. And accessibility, I think that counts. I think accessibility counts as mental health. So maybe that's one we could do actually.
If the lack of accessibility really makes you feel kind of helpless,
Absolutely.
And it really can make it does affect your mental health when you realize how the world around you you can't be there, you can't do that because it hurts or it makes you sick or whatever.
Yeah. Okay, I'm writing this down actually. This is important.
Oh, he put pen to paper.
I did. I could have used one of my free monitors, but the thing is,
you want to try and get Muck log on because he's doing a whole series of builds for people with movement impairment. And that's wonderful. That is absolutely wonderful. I mean, I'm a disabled creator myself. I've got a massive spinal injury, and that has consequences with neurological entanglements, which sounds a lot more exciting than it is.
It's fascinating but terrible.
Yes, yeah, it's quite So, I volunteer. I'll talk about the shit days I have if you think it will help someone.
Oh, absolutely. If people want to do that, I think thank you for all bringing some stuff there. That's appreciated. I appreciate you sharing. That's not an easy thing to do, for sure. And telling us about some conditions, concerns, and stuff that's going on with you. That's not an easy thing to bring onto a podcast talking in front of 47 people live here and the hundreds of people who are going to watch, and the millions, of course, on podcasts. But I'm just saying, that's a few fair people. I think I'll put our scratch down for that as well.
If you find people more qualified to talk intelligently about it, because I can talk about it, but I can't really talk intelligently, I'll just submit some ideas.
But you can talk about your experience. That's the most valuable thing.
Speaking from the heart is very valuable.
That's the most valuable thing.
Sometimes going above into the intellectual, it's lovely, but sometimes you can lose people. Just as we were talking about, being blunt and just being this is what I feel, this is what I've been living with, this is how I operate and help and struggles. It does wonders to be very direct and in that way of speaking.
I think people don't quite realize just how many disabled people play games. It is, especially MMOs, it's such an escape for them, especially if they're housebound or they have movement impairing issues or they have a physical disability that just limits their ability to interact with the real world. A lot of people live vicariously and have their primary friendships online simply because of the fact that they can't get out of the house. And I think it's completely overlooked. And ArenaNet do a great job on numerous things with LGBTQ awareness and story, real characters in the story leading the charge, and it's all wonderful, and I love them dearly. But I think the work that the community is trying to do to make it more accessible for disabled people is amazing, and I can't thank all the creators enough.
Absolutely second that. The whole initiative to make low what's the word? Not low intensity. Is it low intensity builds?
Yeah, low intensity.
That's helpful, even though I've not got a lot of mobility issues, just to avoid carpal tunnel when my hand cramps up after playing too long.
Yeah,
I'm just rubbish, so they're great for me. One button press. Perfect.
I would love to do 40k DPS with 2 button clicks in a raid.
That would be cool.
Amazing.
Feel good.
That is true. Big go and definitely check out Mark Clark's build videos, especially if because they're not. It's not and they're accessible. It's great for the people they're intended for, but also for people who just want to just experience stuff and do just good enough damage that they can just be involved in these things as well, which is really, really cool because that can feel crappy. And then also that has a lot to do with mental health as well. So, you know, people who do feel inadequate, like not good enough, anxious about getting into things, if they have access because they can play a build which makes them feel empowered, which is like, you know, if you think about other things in life that make you feel more empowered to do things, you know, like it's only a positive and good experience. It's great. It is good. And I think, you know, especially in Guild Wars 2, it just and Arena, it just doesn't feel like that game where you should be caught, like where they would promote being sectioned off from content because you can't be good enough to play it. That doesn't feel like ArenaNet. That feels like Blizzard. But like, you know, sorry.
Yeah.
But like, you know, and it, I guess, you know what I'm talking about, a bit of a cheeky comment. But like, yeah.
They've always been really, I know people talk about time-gated materials or achievements or whatever, but overall, Guild Wars is an incredibly considerate game when it comes to your time and your time investment in the game and what you can or cannot devote to it.
Mm-hmm. Cool. Okay, we have diverged, but we diverged importantly, so that's okay. The reason I've written it on paper is because the paper stuff is more important because it stays on my desk and I do it, like it stays there. Whereas if I've got another tab on one of my free monitors, it's just going to stay there or get deleted by accident. But this is a good one for the month of May. Right, okay, so look forward to that. If you have any suggestions of who you would like to see on in the month of May in terms of mental health and accessibility and stuff like that, please drop it in the comments or message me or something. And people who are listening and watching, thank you very much. Okay, so the bot, which we've now spoken about for an hour and a quarter, which I didn't think would happen. It's a bit like fishing and skiffs. Is there anything else? I think generally, like, they're okay. In future content, they're going to be used until we get out of Camphor. I also feel like they need to, if they're going to be like such a main I have this one thought and feeling that I really can't get rid of, and it feels like they're going to be like DRMs and other stuff they've just abandoned in the past. I feel like they're going to get abandoned at some point in time. I'm not sure why I have that feeling, but like they tend to do that. So I don't
masteries
know.
have been abandoned.
I think the worst ones were ones introduced in late Icebrood Saga. Just not existent anymore.
Yeah.
Icebrood Saga has one aspect of Icebrood Saga has been the most tried and true and probably one of the most damaging. It's the way station with the EMP.
Oh, that's true.
The EMP is awful for the game. I hate it. I really hate it.
Talk about our hate for quickness and alacrity. I have more hate for the EMP. That's neither here nor there. But yeah, some masteries, they live and they die. Like New Hawk Wallows, mushrooms, raid masteries were a thing. They stopped being a thing. I do feel like Jade bots will be more consistent because they interact with other systems of the game. So even if they don't necessarily expand upon it, it will always be something that you interact with, similar to mounts. So, you know, maybe they'll just slow it down after a while, change up the cores, change up some chips and stuff, but we'll have to see.
Ooh, I want some chips.
Ooh, yeah.
Ooh, I want some Cool Ranch Doritos.
Might have to make a run for some fries even later.
Damn it.
No, I think one last thing I'd like to say on the Jade bots is there are some really, really greatly useful elements to it that affect gameplay all over the game, but I never remember to use them, like the waypoint. Like, it's there. It's so useful, but I always forget it's there, and I think it's partly because I can't keybind it, and it's also hidden behind the smallest little pop-up menu in the entire game. But there are things that I just don't use enough because I forget.
The UI
more key bindings. Oh my god.
Yeah. Well, the UI as well is that I think we're definitely in a place now where they could give us access to the UI and give us some hotbars and give us. I think they need to start doing that. I think they really got to empower your player. Yes. I think
WoW stole the Drakes. Guild Wars 2 can steal their UI updates.
Yeah, well, I mean, you can.
100%.
If you play WoW and you get the Guild Wars 2 add-on, it's like, and you get the overlay, the Guild Wars 2 overlay. It's like playing Guild Wars 2 as if you can move the UI around, because you can add hotbars in places, and you can have a little bar above here and above there, and you can move your engineer toolbar, and you can do all this stuff. And I'm like, I shouldn't have to play World of Warcraft to do this, because I don't want to play World of Warcraft. But like, it's just so good, and I'm like, oh, this is so awesome. I wish I could do this in a game. I still don't get why they don't do that. I actually think accessibility, well, actually, that's a good topic for accessibility.
Yeah.
But like, yeah. Anyway, I'm not going to go into that because otherwise it's way going off. Sorry, Kroof.
To quickly branch off of what Otterscotch said about the waypoint, I also forget to use it constantly. I only ever use it during Dragon's End, the meta. And I think it's because like Guild Wars 2 is a game where there's so many waypoints already and so many methods of transportation. There's a motorcycle going by. And you're also changing maps so frequently that I don't want to like, I'm like, I don't want to dedicate a waypoint here because I won't need to necessarily come back here. And it's on like a really long cooldown too. So it's like, I'm like, do I want to commit to this moment or do I want to take it somewhere else? So it's kind of useful for meta events, but nothing else.
It's the jumping puzzles,
I think is
right?
fine. And jumping puzzles,
I think
perhaps.
that's one of the main ones. Jumping puzzles and Dragon's End. Like, Dragon's is literally the only, that's such a good point. Like, it's literally the only time I remember I've got it. Because I remember commanders constantly screaming, use your waypoint at the boss, like, get it out. And I'm like, damn, I wish I could see how many waypoints there are currently at this boss.
Is the waypoint single use? So once you use it, it disappears, right?
Yeah.
I think one little tweak I would do is just, if you set it in this map, it just sits there for like half an hour. And then just stays there.
That would be good.
I mean, considering that the
mess with
ship is
metas.
circling up ahead, though. This is a ship, isn't it? You don't necessarily need a waypoint if you're talking about that. Yeah.
Just in general, I think I would use it in more maps and more places.
I agree.
Yeah.
If I could just say.
I think you could have designated zones during meta events where you can't place it. Like you can't place it on the boss. I could see that to have some sort of like fail mechanic if you do die. But anywhere else, I totally agree. If that lasted around like 15-30 minutes just to allow you to keep going back to it, if you happen to die, I would actually start using it more often.
It might be good to, the thing is, I often think, especially in UI design as well, like UX, with when you've got, if you can see that thing exists somewhere, it's in your head, right? You know, you're like, oh, it's like if you're an engineer and you've got your tool belt. I know I've got those tool belt skills there and available for when I can see a cooldown. Whereas if I haven't got a cooldown, I haven't got anything, and it's just kind of this thing I can just pop out somewhere. But I have to click on this little arrow, then I have to do this, and then you're just like, and it's tiny. Like I can barely see it. I've got really crap eyesight, and if there was just another bar above the utility, and it was just a cool little image of like the bot and its like main abilities and cooldowns, and even just like charges, and just to make it look nicer and cleaner and better. And maybe, you know, you can incorporate boons. I don't know, something that was a little bit more incorporated into the UI somehow. I don't know. It would just feel
I have the
nice.
same issue with the fishing. I can put the boat down with the J, but I'm struggling to kind of click that little arrow to get my fish. Why can't we just click a button to get our fishing rod out? I mean,
There's J. You can do that with J. That's
no. It's either the
fishing
boat
rod,
It's the bod,
or the fishing rod. So
just the rod.
you have to pick one. Yeah.
Though, pro tip: right click your caret little indicators, because if you try to left click, sometimes you'll just like press abilities or whatever. So right clicking is easy, but it is still very small.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
just,
Boo.
Okay. Jade Bot is, I think generally Jade Bot is a very unique, and Guild Wars 2 have done a good job with it. I think there's a lot to do with it to hopefully move it into a place which is where it feels like it's more of a fun thing to engage with rather than a necessity. More of like, I need this thing to do this. Like, I have to have this thing to be empowered on a map. Like, it doesn't even matter what my build is, because if I don't have this buff which increases my damage by 10%, it don't matter. Like, it actually doesn't matter. I could be the best player in the world. I'm probably still not going to do as much damage as one other person, whatever, because I've not got the buffs. But like, And I'm glad that helps players to do more damage, but it still feels weird. It's just like, well, just reduce the boss HP and just take out the flipping thing. Like, it doesn't matter. Like, I still don't get it. And it doesn't feel necessary. Like, make it do more fun stuff which is fun. Like like the zip lines, they're fun. They're cool. They're
I love
actual
the
cool
gliding
things.
boost. It's such a little thing, but it's so good.
It is fun, and the skiff boost as well. And like seeing the little bot at the back is really, really cool.
It's so helpful.
Exactly.
Yeah, those masteries, when they start to interact with combat, that's when I really start to feel like they're doing too much and it's becoming unwieldy. Like with EMPs and the grenades and the bazookas, and also like the laser beams in Ice Fruit Saga. I was like, I understand that a way to make it feel like a mastery system is more worthwhile is to integrate it into combat, especially when you can apply that combat across the game, which is what they did with the way station. But it creates more issues and more problems that you have to then design around and really think about. And it just feels like another unnecessary detail to the already complex combat system of Guild Wars 2. So it just feels too bloated at that point.
That's so true. That's so true.
I just wish they felt more impactful. They bigged up this feature, but they don't feel very impactful. I don't know whether it's because they have such extensive cooldowns, or because they're just not visible enough. Because they've taken such care to hide them that they've rendered them invisible.
That's actually very true. Like their actual presence in the game isn't very obvious. Like it's true. Like if they're not visible, and it's like that UI as well. They're literally invisible on there as well. You have to press a little arrow to kind of even just activate what you want to act the waypoint and stuff. And that waypoint is you can see it for you, but we barely use it. Like that's very, very true. I do like the res. The self-res is very good, but that's such a big cooldown. In PvE, it just feels like if you're running around maps, it just feels like just make it easy. Like just shave that maybe by a lot.
Actually, I like that it's a long cooldown because it's still incentive. It's still like you get one free res essentially if you're out by yourself. But if you do fail, there is a slight bit of. There's sirens going by. Hold on.
You can talk, so I think it's funny.
Really? Okay, I'm partaking in the moment of Rook.
Wow. Are they? Is there an emergency outside your home?
They're coming. I gotta go. But what was I saying?
Cooldowns on the healy.
Yeah, I like that it at least gives you one. It gives you one freebie, and Guild Wars 2 already isn't super punishing when you die. They got rid of like the armor repair costs. Honestly, I don't think they need to like make your armor break anymore.
I just don't think it's not necessary. It doesn't make any sense.
It might be something too deep to disable at this point.
Yeah,
maybe if you like delete that, you delete half the game or something.
That actually could be a legitimate thing, Kroof.
Yeah, this is true. So I don't mind that it's on a long cooldown because waypoints are pretty cheap. You know, it gives you having one freebie is better than having none. So I think it's an element of you still have to have a little bit of tension in the open world. Because there already isn't a lot.
That's true.
I do have one other on the mentioning the cooldowns and the Jade Bot special abilities. The down to 4 skill drives me nuts. I love it, but there are situations where I'm like this close to reviving and I hesitate to hit my skill 4 because I don't want to waste that bot because I know I'm going to want it in 5 minutes.
It should have been the 6th one.
Oh yeah, because it replaces your normal heal, right?
Yeah, it completely replaces it. You can't save it.
I've only used it like twice, but like yeah, it does. Why does it do that?
Yeah.
It should just replace go 5. Like I don't care about 5, but like
no,
like,
I thought
why
they
is
would
that
have put 6.
Yeah, I would love it on 6.
6 is your normal heal when you're out, and like if you press 6, you're like that's the ultimate heal in downstate.
Yeah, there you go. I love that.
Yeah. I agree with you in terms of like almost like the mechanics of the bot that interact with actual like combat mechanics. So you could say that having that waypoint is intersectional with combat, but for things like movement, is it that important to have a long cooldown when you're just propelling yourself across the water? Is that that's just no more fun for you? right?
Yeah, movement. I think they could shave any cooldowns that the Jade Bot interacts with.
'Cause it doesn't do all that much.
Yeah, in terms of combat, I like it when it just touches on it a little bit. But yeah, I would agree with you, Fornax. I'd agree.
I was actually.
Yep. Like, let's segue and just talk about Dragon.
It's okay, I'm still here.
Damn it.
I can hear you. My headphones are on. Like this cable is really long for that reason. I'm just like, Kroof can't troll me during the podcast. Continue.
The movement. I totally agree that because it's really not that it doesn't affect all that much. The sky scale really was the most disruptive one, and I love my sky scale and I wouldn't give it up. But I watch how people get left behind so very often in metas that require moving from one place to another because they don't have the sky scale. But the Jade Bot doesn't do that to anybody.
Yeah.
So the cooldowns are overkill.
I think they've tuned the fun out of it. I think they've made it too invisible. They've put restraints in areas that don't need to be restrained. And for a prime feature of the expansion, I feel like it could have some love and benefit and be just more fun.
And kind of what I love is that we have that chance still. Like ArenaNet's pretty good about going and revisiting things and improving user experience, so they might still, and I kind of hope they do.
Yeah. Of course. Yeah, when we're talking about this, we're not like dissing ArenaNet, but like we always do it. It's always for feedback, and we're allowed to have our honest and feelings and thoughts about that. That's for
Absolutely.
sure.
Yeah.
Always done respectfully and awesome.
I guess this is my looking at any devs listening. We know you can do it.
Please.
Please do.
Yeah, it's very true. Okay. Kroof, are you wait, what were you holding up there?
Okay.
Crying out. You're okay, Kroof, good. What is that?
It's a smoothie? Milkshake? Nope, it's gone.
It's a drink?
Yeah, it looks like a little glass with maybe like a cherry on it and a straw.
Yeah. Fornax is not going to tell us, apparently.
Bollocks, I was talking and then... Sorry, it is a drink.
It's
Shit.
bollocks.
I can see the mouth moving.
It's
Yeah,
just bollocks in a glass. And that's why they're so pink and red. That makes
They're your
sense.
testicles, dear. I thought I'd bring them back since I had the last podcast I was on.
I was
Would you like me
keeping
to
them in some
return them?
vinegar.
Yeah.
Wait, what? And now Kroof has now broken their boot. Like, what?
No, I'm just. I'll put it back
You
on.
don't
another
need it.
time.
You've
It's a
already
fan.
got a cover. I've got two as well, but I
I
don't
like
need
having two. Okay, Jebro. I'm greedy.
it helps. It helps, especially when you've got like all the sound that you've got coming. It's very impressive. Your setup has evolved over time from this.
It has.
Well, you used to have a table mic and you used to do this, like smashing the table. I was just like, God damn it, shut up,
I had a
Kroof.
table mic for like a year or two.
Yeah, I know.
Oh.
You're bad. Now you got fly swatter or a Jebro swatter. So let's go and talk about Echovald, because I feel like we could have actually had a Jade Bot podcast, to be fair. Echovald Wilds. So Kainang, you start in Arborstone, right? Before you go out into Echovald. So Arborstone, I think Arborstone was sold to me as like a map for some reason, because I think I was like generally in EOD. This something I feel about EOD. I feel like I'm missing a map for some reason. I feel like it is I don't know why. I always keep thinking this. I'm thinking like there was 4 big maps, which is cool, and I love the maps. But also at the same time, I don't think Guild Wars 2 actually incentivizes us to go back to maps other than for metas, really. And achievements which are quite long-winded and are very, very specific to, I think, not to a smaller population in the game. But, like, I felt like I was missing a map. Anyway, Arborstone, that's another conversation. Arborstone you start in, and then you kind of go out into Echovald Wilds. What were people's kind of experiences going from, or even being introduced into each map via a story point? Because if you don't know this, if you've gone through EOD You may, I don't know if you have access to maps other than through story. I think you have to go through the story, other than if you've got like a portal stone or whatever. Do you have to go through the story steps to go through to each map? Because I've actually done it that way. I actually don't know if you can.
No, you can, because I remember I went to poke into the Dragon's End map because I was super curious, but I hadn't finished the story yet, but I just wanted to see. And you go up to it and it says that it actually has a pop-up that says this map contains major spoilers for the story beyond what you have completed. Are you sure you want to go through this gate? So you can.
Right. Yeah, that's true, because they warned us about that as well, didn't they? When they were doing the shows. The other maps though, because that portal from Thingamajig to Kainang, thank you, is so many. Is I'm not sure if that's like activated by a story, because I can't remember seeing it, because you just get the skiff and you go through. But if it's just a normal portal that's there, it's like the portals in core. You know, you get the portal on the path. It's exactly the same portal.
It's nearly invisible, but I think it's there. See, I always I teleport over because I can never find the gate.
Yeah, but I was just wondering, like, through story. I wish I knew that, actually. I wish I'd tested that. But anyway, but like
I think you can go ahead at any given time, as it is like normally.
You can, yeah. Arborstone, I don't know. Arborstone, I guess you would have to.
Actually, that is a good question, because it is a hub.
Because I don't think you could, unless you just ran through. You still have to run through the map.
It might be blocked off. You can still get to Echovald Wilds. You just have to go through a different portal. But yeah, Arborstone you might not be able to.
Yeah, there is an Echovald portal on New Kayang right at the back. Right at the back of the map, isn't it? Yeah.
Okay. Either way. What was it like transitioning from kind of Arborstone into Echovald Wilds, the story? How was that? You don't have to talk about the story, but like, did it feel good, peeps? Was it a nice experience going into Echovald Wilds for the first time? If you remember, it might be a bit. It was a bit ago.
It was was fine.
Hesitation from Kroof.
No, just like my overall impressions of I fucking hated it. My idea of Echovald Wilds, I think my overall impression of the map is that I was expecting more of a forest, something more akin to like Guild Wars 1, where you had the treetops and the canopy, and you really didn't get that with Echovald Wilds. It feels, in my opinion, it feels very similar to like Tangled Depths, where it's all kind of like hidden in these tunnels, but the tunnels aren't made of rock, they're made of branches. You have like pockets of content. No, I shouldn't even say that. You have like pockets of points of interest above the tunnels of the branches. Yeah. So it was a different it didn't line up with my expectations of what I was imagining Echovald Wilds to be. But given that, it still has a nice tone. It still has a nice just ambience to it. And
ambiance, yes.
Ambiance. And it's a decent map. I was expecting maybe more story between like the speakers and the Jade Brotherhood. And there is a little bit, but not necessarily to the degree that I felt like it could have gone. But it's a fine map, you know.
The quest leading up to, because I just saw it on my footage, the quest leading up to Echovald, like when you're in the restaurant and you have like the sushi and stuff, like, and you move through, like, I think that was the quest that was leading up to go through. I think so. That's the way I did it anyway. I think yeah, it is the actual one. It was wicked.
That little instance brought me such delight.
Oh, it was so good. It was so good, oh gosh. It was really good. It was fun. It was the bobblehead combined with being drunk, and it was just awful for that part. But like, because I think I did the achievement, you don't have to do it that way. But yeah, and the fights were kind of fun, and like it was just it was nice. And then you kind of went to the bottom right hand side of the map where you went through the portal to Echovald. But like the bottom right hand side of Kainang, as we know, like south East. Wow, I know directions on the compass. Good job. Well, I'm so qualified. Was just cool because like that part of the map is evolved. Well, is not evolved with has not evolved with the rest of Kainang. So you get that kind of introduction into Echovald before you've even gone there, which I really appreciated, which was very cool. Like there's a pathway and there's brambles and there's like tree trunks and there's like branches and the kind of theme you get into Echovald before you even get there, because that side of the city has not been brought up to snuff, I guess, or whatever it is, with the rest of Kainang, because it's older, it's less, you know, Jade influenced. And it was quite cool. I like that kind of intro into that zone because I don't think we get that in Guild Wars too much, actually. I think it's kind of like you go from this place to this place and that's it. Like you kind of, it's not very gradual. I think it's gradual through zones sometimes. I don't know. You can see it in the footage anyway, but I kind of appreciated that. It was cool. I'll get there. I'm just being slow. That's one of the best mounts in the game as well, by the way. That weird plush thing. Oh, the raptor.
I love it.
It's so good. But what did other people think? Like when they got in there, Kroof kind of told us a little bit about their experience, but
I'm going to be polite after you.
After you, who?
No one's talking about Echovald Wilds.
No one cares.
Wow,
No one
y'all
cares about
hate this
Echovald Wilds.
map.
Wow.
Under the
I
bus
realized
you
how much
go.
I've been talking.
No. You've been talking.
Wow,
no
y'all
one's
just,
taking up space.
I cannot believe you all just said that you hate Echovald Wilds. That is shocking. Wow.
Everyone's been talking equally, other than Quiet Herald, who's very quiet today.
For the best. It's for the best.
We all fall silent again.
I think they're talking through their avatar most of the time. They're just fiddling around with it so much. Okay, so tell us, like, Quiet Herald or Scotch, it doesn't matter. One of you. I don't care. You must talk now. No, I'm joking.
Okay.
You don't have to talk.
I'll go. So, I agree with Kroof about quite a bit of it. So
Whoa, calm down. Okay.
Yeah.
Don't
You can't
agree
have
with
too much
Kroof.
agreement with me, you know.
get in the love. So it doesn't feel like a forest. It doesn't.
Okay.
It feels like corridors. Right.
Okay.
And I like the freedom of movement in the game that the mounts offer, and all those branches they fork with my flow for my griffins.
Yes.
and you're just constantly bouncing off the world. So I like that. I would like it if they had the dense feeling of the underbrush in the forest in the lower levels, and then it really like opened out and there was more trees and wildlife in the upper areas that there would be if you look at any kind of rainforest and that kind of thing. The canopy is an ecosystem all of its own, and I think they missed an opportunity to actually have interesting stuff there. But in terms of like the spectacle of the buildings, I thought they were absolutely beautiful. They were like almost stunningly realistic in kind of a way. It was kind of eerie, and I thought that they were really beautiful, and they kind of reminded me of where I went to school.
Yeah, they're very English. Yeah.
I went to school in an old nunnery.
Wow.
And
cool.
it had like gothic architecture and the vaulted ceilings, that kind of thing. It's a terrible school, but it was beautiful to look at.
Yeah, like my school in England, to be fair.
Yeah.
Schools, just schools.
But in terms of like, so I liked it. I thought it was impressive. I thought it was beautiful, but it feels like corridored content, and I wish they'd have juxtapositioned it with a feeling of openness in the canopy and that crowded, like compressed feeling that you get when you're running around the bottom of the map.
So a cool thing that I told you guys earlier that I was really interested in, like the ecosystem and how this came to be. But I have a question. have any of you played Guild Wars 1 that could tell me what kind of trees were growing in this area before it became petrified?
I don't know what type of tree. Like, I don't know if it was a redwood or like an oak tree.
Were it
Redwood.
like,
They
was
were
it
in
like the
Guild
big
Wars-
poofy kind or tall evergreens?
In Guild Wars 1, they were much taller. They were kind of like old graphical trees where like they don't have a lot of branches like shooting out in the low areas of
Yeah.
their trunk. They're quite tall and they have a lot of leaves to them, but they're petrified, so they're like quite hard and
Yeah.
stone-like.
So, a really cool thing about many evergreens is, as a kind of a defense mechanism, the needles are actually very acidic. So when they fall, when they drop them to the ground and they hit the ground and start to decay, it makes the ground around the trees acidic and it kills off underbrush. So if you're in, and especially I suspect that a lot of the reference that they're drawing is literally the team going up to like the whole rainforest and to the other forests up in the area around them in Seattle. So they're going to see a lot of these evergreen forests where there's almost no underbrush for most of the forest, except these really intense spots of life where there's a break in the trees.
But you do get plants like Monstera in rainforests and orchids and.
So is this a rainforest? Because like the amount of moss and the color of it always felt like it's more of a temperate evergreen forest, but I could be completely misreading it.
I don't know. I mean, so in the old law, it was a sacred forest.
Mhm.
They were almost like redwoods, and it was like there was an eternity to the trees because the houses of the Kurziks each house had a patron god. So each one took on a different aspect in their cultural life in representation of that god, and they also had. So they also had the tree of like an eternal tree, whereby they could bond with it, and there's a little side quest thing happening. Yeah, so that's from the original game where people would basically they used it as a war mode, whereby one of their warriors would meld with the tree, they'd become this kind of tankish thing, and then they'd go off to battle the Luxons with their turtles, and that was kind of the mechanic that was going on in the underlying lore, but. You have to think, I think there was a link with Melandru to the forest. So, I mean, it's not as clear cut as I would like it to be. And I'm sad that they didn't lean into the more of the gods and the houses and the influence that they could have had.
Hoping for some living world expansion on that, or expanding on that. It'd be really cool. I agree that there's a lot of opportunity in the story there.
The one thing about this map is I love the Gothic architecture of Arborstone. I was just maybe disappointed that there weren't more like safe havens of like the Kurziks and like seeing some home inside the trees, or being able to go into the tree and it's almost like a capital city of like the Kurziks or the denizens who live there.
Like tree houses, like Ewoks. I would love to see like Ewoks. Yeah.
Made inside of it, and it's all like Gothic, and the concept art gave us that idea. Even the loading screen is like a doorway, and there's like a bridge, and you can see like walkways.
Yeah.
And there are
Sort of like the Etzel, but more refined.
Yeah, much more refined. And there are some walkways like stone paths between the trees. You can't go inside them, and they don't have any doors attached to them, so they're literally
just like a mastery
stone.
sometimes, or a hero point, right, where you can go into them on odd occasions.
Yes, it's just one room of like stained glass Gothic paintings, and you have to use a battery charge to get in there, and then you just commune with like a mastery point, and that's it.
I wonder what Herald for when you had to go in there. You used did that ruin your lore face, lore head? Smiling.
No, I don't mind. I don't mind them using the mechanics. They've put the mechanics in there. They want us to use them. I'm fine with that. I am disappointed, like Kroof said. So in the original game, the trees literally had stained glass. They were living inside the trees. It was more like Tolkien and Galadriel's realm. If you've seen the films, if you haven't, leave immediately. What you do with your life?
Banished,
kicked out.
You're done, son. But Yeah, so they really missed an opportunity. And I hate the fact, one of the things that I don't like about the expansion, and I generally universally love the art and the environments, but one of the things I didn't like was the fact that everything feels like a facade. You can't get into anything, you can't explore the houses. Oh, you've got these massive buildings and they're just blocks. I want to go and
It's
explore the
Disneyland.
people. Yeah, it is. It's just a facade, and it's frustrating because you've got all these massive buildings in Kayang City, and
You want to poke them.
yeah, I want to explore. I want to be up in people's shit. I love looking at other people's houses.
Yeah.
It's yeah, I don't know.
So there is one apartment that you do get to go in, and I've found that in the open world you can get up onto their balcony and look in. And that one little spot, I just love it because it gives that feeling, like you're saying, that you get to see the world being alive.
There's very few moments in New Kaining City, but there's virtually none in Echovald Wilds, which I feel like was a missed opportunity, especially when you can see, as you were saying, Fornax, you can see the Gothic cathedral-esque, like, oh, there's probably people in there, or there's like Kurzic acolytes, and they're doing rituals and they're praying and all that stuff. But there's no doors around. There's only the stained glass, and you're like, but what? It's like, it's a cool set piece, but like,
it is.
It just looks like a painting on a wall.
Yeah.
It's supposed to serve more of a purpose.
Little evidence that people used to live there.
Yeah.
Yeah. And didn't there used to be like gondolas in factions, and there was none of that. And
you guys are making me really mad that I didn't get to explore.
If you want to go, feel free, Jebro, to go to one of my videos. It's about Cantha. I made them before, and it's to do with the Kurziks, and you can see one of there were like treetop bridges, and there was a little cart, and there was a big wheel, and there was a turtle inside it, or one of the.
Can you link it so I can kind of put it out while you're talking?
Hang on. Yeah, I'll grab
it
in the chat
if you can.
Yeah, I'll try and find it. But there was, I don't know, there's so many. So I love this game, don't get me wrong. I criticize it a lot because I love it, because I think it could be so much better. And it's the same with the story, which I both loved and was furious with, because it was such a missed opportunity. We didn't get a full story. We got a prologue that might be interesting. We got like the Clip Notes version of a story. But yeah, anyway, that's another thing. But yeah,
one
missed opportunities
is that in my mind, I'm the type of person that even if I don't like something, I find some redeeming quality, or I spin it in a way so that I can like it. And my idea is, like, it's been 250 years. Maybe they actually had to chop down these trees to get rid of their brush and get rid of their canopy to utilize to build those apartments and to build back New Kaining City because of the flood.
Did you make up your own lore?
I did. I have no inclination that this is the actual lore in game, but I was like comparing what we got for Echovald Wilds, at least visually. There
would be
is
rather
no
short on wood.
Yeah, there is no treetop. There are no leaves. Everything is just at the ground level. So that's kind of some aspect of, like, it's been 250 years. So lore-wise, there might be reason, but also it's just been like 17 plus years since Guild Wars 1, so they might just want to update how it looks. But despite my criticisms and like my overall, wasn't what I expected, I still appreciate the boss fights, the meta events, the little moments of exploration using the Jade robot or the Jade Bot to enter these areas. And I also like to point out that there are 2 mini dungeons within Echovald Wilds. So if you're looking for a map that has a little bit more exploration than maybe the others, I really commend this map, and it does a pretty decent job of allowing you to explore those corners and those corridors, as Fornax put it.
There is some nice little dinky areas there's an area where which I really, really, really like. And it's near one of the skill points, which is hard to get to. Something like the southeast part of the map, where you get to the Tengu City and you go west, but you have to go across the lake, and then you have to go through this corridor, which is kind of what it is. But that's more of an actual corridor. when you go down to, you go deeper into the map down, and you come to the screen, you get the skill point, but you can keep going, and some secret chests, there's some enemies and mobs and some spirits, but then there's this like beautiful round circular stained glass window, this light that's beaming through onto this water, and you can fish there, and there's little fishing holes, and I'm just like, damn, I could fucking live here. Like, it was so nice. I'm hoping my footage comes up in a bit. I'm going to show you Fornax's in a second, but like, there are some little parts of the map like that which are just so cool. And like, there's the mini puzzle, which is very, very nice, where you've got to, you know, match up all these weapons and stuff, but you have to go through this long process to even get there by getting these items. So you can like this torch, which opens this gate, and there's just loads of like little things like that, which are very cool, like those mini dungeons. But I definitely agree with the fact that, and this is why I keep saying that the reason my favorite map in the game in EOD is the first map, because it feels like what it should be. Like, it feels like what it should be. Kainang City, I don't mind, but it still feels like, I actually feel like Kainang is like, you can't go into a lot of the places, and that feels a little bit fake in terms of all the buildings and stuff being a city. Like, there's no way you can't do that. But Lion's Arch was very, very different. Like, Lion's Arch was just like old Lion's Arch. I don't mean the new one. But like the old Lion's Arch, you can go into a lot of the buildings. Like, you can go into so many of the buildings, and you can go into so many of the upturned like boats buildings. When I said they're boats, you know, and ships. You could go into so many of those and talk to different people. There are different vendors. Like, they really use that old LA. I'm so sad that isn't in the game anymore. We might get to see it destroyed though soon, so that's cool.
Just anything.
Yeah, that would be good. I'm really looking forward to that. But yeah, anyway, I do. There was a lot to it that I did enjoy, but like Fornax. Do you want to tell us about the kind of footage we're seeing right now? Is this the right place?
I think it is. So I mean, so what I did was I was doing a bit of I wanted to give a TLDR version of what was happened before, so people didn't have to go back. And it was looking at what came before, and I was kind of trying to extrapolate what might be. And in some of the footage, I don't know whether you've gone past it. I think it's in the Kurzak section. Right. It's all bookmarked, but you can see that there was a whole tram system in the canopy, whereby and it was a cage hanging from wires with turtles running around in them. Why couldn't we have that? I mean, that would have been amazing, right?
Interesting.
I mean, it goes against my like veganness, but you know, it's not a real turtle, so I can live with it.
No, it's fine.
Yeah, sorry, I'm just watching this footage and I'm like, yeah, maybe I need to play this.
I actually went back and played factions before End of Dragons, and I was surprised. It's not as long as I thought it would be. It's actually pretty doable, and it's a decent story.
Okay.
I played it. I can't remember it. I didn't play it that long ago. Apparently, I just my brain. I think I rushed through it a little bit. I definitely need to go back. It feels really epic though. It does feel very similar to Guild Wars 2, but I think with Guild Wars, the only problem is you have that sense because you can't even jump in Guild Wars, right? So they have to really bring that experience down to one level. Like, so they have to really make sure that everything that on your level, you have to feel immersed in this place. You have to, everything has to be a lot closer. Whereas now you've got mounts, like you've got this whole verticality. You've got this, you can go up, you can go down because you've got skimmers as well, which go underwater. You've got so much stuff that like translating the experience from Guild Wars to Guild Wars 2, I can imagine was a big challenge. But that doesn't mean to say that you can't do it in a way which maybe is kind of mirroring what you're saying, Fornax, because I definitely get that feeling of there's a lot of patrols and escorts and stuff like that in corridors. There are endless corridors. Like if you go and look at the map and when you're going through, it's actually really annoying to traverse a lot of the time.
It is dangerous.
And you're on your beetle actually. I actually used the thing I use the most in this map is actually the beetle, because you can actually use that because they are really corridor kind of. You don't have to turn too much. You can use that quite a lot.
Beetle racing zone, actually.
I don't know why there isn't, and honestly, I don't know why they got rid of Adventures. Adventures aren't in there. I think Adventures would be great in there. I'm not sure why they've kind of disappeared, but that's the thing.
Kroof, you played the game quite recently, the original, right?
Yes.
Did the I don't remember the maps.
Where's your phone on the desk? I mean, I'm not immersed in your avatar story right now. I mean, where is the phone? That would be cool if one just came up randomly. We're like, sorry.
Oh my god.
I do have one of these models with the phone, but I didn't put it in for this one.
Oh no. Maybe next time.
Sorry. Yeah, maybe next time. I never felt that constrained and that the oppressiveness that you get in the corridors. I never felt that in the original game. I felt like it was more open and you could like feel the verticality of the map.
Yeah, and I think
there you go.
I
Look.
totally agree. In Guild Wars 1, everything was much more spread out than it is now. If anything, it feels like in Guild Wars 2, they compacted everything into a really tight tile.
Oh, really?
Because when you're in Guild Wars 1, they have the scale to their advantage because you can't jump. So everything looks massive. But the trees themselves, at least like going through the lanes and exploring the explorable areas of Echovald, the trees themselves felt like they were spread out a little bit more than they are in Guild Wars 2. I mean, in Guild Wars 2, like you get on your sky scale or your raptor and you just like raptor leap and you're at the next tree. But in Guild Wars 1, it's like you have to walk like a 30 seconds, a minute, or to like a decent amount to actually get to the next tree to get that forest sense. So I agree. It felt like Guild Wars 1 was less compact than in Guild Wars 2.
It's also fairly uniform. So in the original game, there were areas of the forest that were really like dark and oppressive and you could feel it. And then they had these other areas that were like really airy and open and you could almost see the sky. And I feel like we've lost a bit of diversity. But then again, we don't have all the maps. We don't have all of Xingzhe. We don't have hardly any of Echovald really.
It's
and
interesting. I'm watching the footage here that you've got, and it's funny because it's very similar in physical design and their color palette. They've got all the colors. But something they've done, like you were saying, there's areas that I'm seeing that are far more foreboding and gloomier, and then there's spots that seem more alive, and I can't figure out what they did so different that makes it feel so dramatically different with a lot of the same resources.
Yeah.
But kind of going off what you were saying, I do hope that in season 6 or however they're going to market the next stories, I do hope we get another map in the Echovald Forest, because the general area is titled Echovald Forest. This specific map, however, is Echovald Wilds. So maybe going further south, going north, we'll see more of that Echovald that we got in Guild Wars 1. At least I hope so. And if we get that, maybe we'll learn to appreciate Echovald Wilds for what it is more, while also having that kind of nostalgia hook of, old Echovald.
I don't know, maybe we can take away the positive thing where they still have a lot of inspiration left over from the original maps, maybe.
Yeah.
What about sorry, go on. No.
Oh, just one of the things really quick is you don't register in the current map. You don't register the trees as trees. They're just obstacles.
Yeah.
Whereas watching that footage, they looked like trees. Anyways, sorry about that.
Yeah, that actually makes a bunch of sense.
Yeah, that's why I had to be like, they cut the trees down, and because I actually remember getting into that map. I was on Discord with my friend, and I was like, okay, I'll get on my sky scale. I want to see what it's like. I like broke through the branches, and I was like, oh, these are stumps. These aren't trees.
Yeah, you can get to the top. Yeah, you kind of it breaks a bit.
That was really disappointing. They had a huge. So I mean, if you think about how like varied Tangle Depths was, I mean, I know people hate that map, but
I loved it.
There was. Did you?
It was a
I like
love-hate
Tangled
thing.
Apps.
I hate traversing it if I'm trying to get somewhere. But if I'm just like exploring and wanting to look at it, it's amazing.
But I mean, so they've got there's stuff, there's life, there's activity, it feels like a living, breathing place from the ground, from the depths, from the bowels of the earth, right to the top of the map. It feels like it's alive and it's active, and there just seems to be these dead zones in the map. The new current map. It's it's beautiful, but I don't know whether they just ran out of time or they just couldn't have the scope that it really needed to do it justice.
Yeah. It might have been a scope issue because this map feels very, very similar to Heart of Thorns and what they were trying to do with their 3-layer system of the canopy, the jungle floor, and like the roots. And even in Heart of Thorns, they weren't able to fully.
I hate that map so much. You have no idea. I actually hate it. Like I hate it with a passion. I hate that map. I like the meta event, but good lord. Whoever came up with that map, like, they wanted to torture us. they wanted to torture us
for that reason.
You are a bad person.
Once I learned where to go, it was much easier. But in the case of Echovald, it feels like they wanted to go with that idea of Heart of Thorns.
Just never got there.
But they were only able really to do the ground floor. Even in the canopy, when you have those platforms, there's no content there. No. Even with even with Verdant Brink, when you got to the canopy, there were pockets of bosses that you had to fight during the meta event.
Yeah, there were the whole map. There were whole like islands full of mobs to do things on, and
then there were like the Itzel and the Caustic. You'd find either inhabited villages or abandoned and crushed villages. There were all these little things to explore.
Here, there's just like Kestrel scouts laying around, not doing anything, and it doesn't. It gives you the impression that it's going to be something, and it doesn't necessarily deliver on that front.
Yeah.
Okay. I forgot to put the advertisement on Instagram, so I'm putting it late, which is why I was taking a picture of all of you. Honestly.
But something Sir Scuttle says in chat, they say it doesn't feel as exciting to explore. It feels very monotonous, even though it's not all the same. I agree with like it might visually feel similar, but I think that this map is the best for exploring in terms of rewards, minus the J-Tech chests. You have too many dungeons, and you can have more reason to go underground and to explore the pockets that you can. So I think they were able to succeed a little bit on the exploration front, but in terms of just like living up to that expectation of a forest and, dividing content into the different layers, that's where it might have kind of, fallen short, in my opinion. But I can kind of see what you're saying, Scuttles.
Interesting. What about okay, so if you think about what else is on the map, we know we've got the visual, we've got the visuals, we've got the traversing. But one thing that is very important in maps is, especially to bring the maps alive, I think you can have a map that looks great, but if you don't have the stories within them, like the hearts, the events, all that kind of stuff, like it feels empty anyway. So it was almost like you're just looking through the map, you're like, oh, that's nice. But like, how about this is one of the hearts. I actually really enjoyed this heart. If you're watching the footage and you can't watch the video, I encourage you to go and watch the VOD sometimes, because it does have footage, but I tried to talk very generally, but this heart I actually enjoyed quite a lot. You stealth into one of the camps and you have to go and do bits and bobs. Like, you get the outfit, you get, you start to role play a little bit. It's quite cool. But like, you can kill bits and bobs. I can't remember what else you have to do, but you have to go in there to get like one of the vistas as well. So that you can't actually go in there any other way other than like being, dressing up as one of the, who is it that, I can't remember which camp this is actually. It's the wardens.
This is the speaker.
It is the speaker, okay. Yeah. And then when he came into this place, look at this guy.
This was a good moment.
This guy. Like, when you first see these mobs, I was just like, oh wow, that is one of the best creatures I've seen in Guild Wars 2. Like, no word of a lie. Like for me, I was just like, damn. One, it looks exactly like my guy that I've got on my arm, to be honest. But like, I just love it. Like, these are the wardens, right? Because Guild Wars, I can't remember everything lore-wise, everything. My brain, I forget things. But look how great they are. They're just so good, and they're just so massive. They give you this real like sense of how big the world is in terms of like the actual beings and the creatures in the game and in the world. And I really appreciated their size, their like the voices as well. Like the voice acting was so good, and some of them were so deep. You know, you can tell there was a lot of work produced, like gone into the voices and thinking about how they should sound, and they were just so good. And like even just walking around thinking, damn, you know, if I take this outfit off, I'm gonna die. But then I was like, damn, Ranger could have been that. Oh yeah, that's another conversation. But yeah, I just wonder, like, any favorite kind of hearts or like moments like that, or what did you think about this one specifically? Maybe if you have any thoughts about this one, but like, how did you think about the events and like just the vistas and the hero points and other stuff like that in the map? Anyone can go first, or pop in with a thought, or if you hate it, you can do that as well.
So there was right at that doorway where you first enter, and there's one of the wardens talking about something happening and going wrong.
Yeah.
Standing right next to them is a petrified warden, and they're talking about how this is a thing that is happening, not that had happened. And I am so mad that we didn't get more on this.
You're right.
I forgot about
I
that.
was so mad because I went and I listened and I couldn't find any more.
Oh, I didn't think about that actually.
So cool though. It's such a cool bit of lore, and this kind of these camps felt like those pockets of life that just really made the whole forest seem inhabited.
That is a great point.
He's got prosperity. That one of the new odd sets that they brought in in an entire set.
Oh.
And it's got a frog on it with a coin in its mouth. It's really awesomely dinky. Yeah. And about 70 silver on the trading post. Just
True. They're very cheap. They're very cheap. I'm interested to see that they did not go with like the ley line weapons. That probably would have fit better, but
yeah.
You know, they look good. I think this was the first heart that I did.
Okay.
It took me some time. And it was good to establish the speakers. But after that, I didn't have any reason to go do the Jade Brotherhood one. I ended up doing that one much later. And it just kind of set up the Jade Brotherhood and kind of their attitudes towards everything.
This was a story, wasn't it? This was a story step as well.
Yeah, you had to go to one of the two camps.
That's right.
This one was the closest, so you
yeah, this is why I went to this one. I forgot about it. Okay.
But other than this, the story of the map revolved around the gang wars between the Speakers, the Jade Brotherhood, and the Kestrels. And it culminates into a larger boss fight towards the center of the map. But I wasn't really getting a lot of lore from what I would have liked to have seen is more lore and more interaction with the leaders. Sorry, my head's come up. With the leaders of these camps. So primarily Tetra and Chilmu. They weren't big players in this map. You can go speak to them during these hearts, but they're not in the meta event all that much. They're not like in the maps. You don't really hear them saying anything. So I felt like that was a missed opportunity to gain more information about these gangs.
Can I add on to that?
No, you're not.
No, you're not allowed.
Leave immediately.
No. I will need
so-
to. I mean, is there no like add like little thing for the avatar? Is there no like?
You just hold that for a second,
There
and I'll
you go.
carry on talking.
Good stuff.
So, I liked the lore, and I liked the little side quests, and I liked there's a ghost one where you get a Kurzik weapon, and there's a dungeon whereby you there's a group of people hiding from the Ministry of Purity, and that you help their ghosts, and it's a puzzle, and it's lovely, and I really loved it. But the most disappointing, I feel like such a negative bar still, but the most disappointing thing about it is that I played through the story, I enjoyed the map, I thought it was beautiful. I got on to the next map, which is the dragon map, the big finale, and I didn't know why these people were here. I didn't know why they were helping, because the story did not compel me to play right to the end, to the meta event where they say we need to come together, we need to put aside our differences, this thing is getting out of hand, and then we all go and face Suwon together. Sorry, spoilers, shit. So yeah.
Oh, we talked about Dragon's End a while ago.
Okay, fine.
Yeah, no,
but,
fine.
So I felt like
she's introduced pretty early on, so you're good.
True, but I mean, so I didn't know why they were there when I first rubbed my face off trying to get my turtle, doing that map over and over again. It doesn't matter how many times I played it. Oh my god, it was so bad. But I didn't know how many times I played it. It was.
Which face did you use? I missed that.
It was. I didn't know why they were there. I could listen to the stories, and I love just sitting around and listening to the NPCs talk. I think some of the best storytelling they do is kind of like that passive thing, but I had no clue why they'd put down their arms and joined together, because they didn't compel us to finish the map. I think that should have been part of the story, that we had to finish the map, do some sort of, doesn't have to be the big version of the meta event, but like at the end of the story when we face Suwon by ourselves, we could have had that with the speakers and the Jade Brotherhood in a little home instance where we see them resolve their issues or come to an agreement and then move on into the next. I feel like there was a story step missing.
Did they just kind of talk about it on the wings when they're on the way down?
When what?
And I feel like there was a little bit talked about.
The lanes, the east
sorry.
and west lane during the final.
I feel like there's a little
meta.
bit of conversation, but not much. So I definitely get what you mean. There's no is it that the meta event probably has a lot more, like the meta event in Echovald Wilds has a lot more of the story maybe that people might be missing out on? Do you think that's got a little bit of it to do with it?
That's 100%. I mean, so I was playing through with a family member who was kind of returning to the game, at least the PvE side of it. So I was doing a lot of shepherding, and I was doing a lot of helping and explaining and stuff. So my experience.
Oh my god! Can you imagine? Can you imagine the Crichton Herald guiding you from through Guild Wars through everyone? Imagine that. Well, the lore of this area, and this is that, and this is the story from. Oh, that would be very cool. They're lucky. They don't know how lucky they are. That's very awesome.
Oh. That went in a completely different direction to what I was expecting.
Sorry, no, I just gave you a compliment. That's okay. Like, get ready. We hype people up. There you go.
I'm gonna give you. Thank you. There you go.
Amazing.
Yeah. No, it's I was on another. I was cheating on you, Jebro. I was on another podcast. Okay, I have to be honest here, and
already.
Yeah, that's fine.
You can say which podcast it was. It's okay. I advertise other people's stuff.
It was. Oh shit, I can't remember. Oh, never mind. Anyway.
Oh wow! Now I don't feel as bad. You don't even remember the podcast host.
I have.
Was it host of
ADD,
Ascalon?
so it's. I have ADD.
Was
so
it host of Ascalon?
No. It was with Raguchi.
Yeah, there you go.
Okay.
Sorry. Thank you for saving me. And I spent a lot of time kind of talking about how I loved the story and it was a wonderful experience, and how much of it was missing, and how I felt like it was just, we got half a story. We never find out how Suwon created the other Elder Dragons. We never find out why would an eternal being who's by herself feel loneliness. You can't miss a place you've never been. Was she there before the people were there? Did she create the people? There
are a lot of metaphysical questions.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess
that's
maybe
probably like its own story podcast.
Loneliness is probably more of a feeling than a sense of maybe, I mean, you can go, maybe it's just open to interpretation. I would assume that, being lonely is definitely, I think we've all felt that before. We can feel lonely by feeling like there's something missing specifically, maybe.
Because you can miss something that you've never experienced.
Yeah.
Like you can feel a longing for it.
Yeah.
I mean, I in a human sense, I completely agree. But
But
here's the thing: if she was born alone, if she was alone, she has no way of knowing that there is another existence out
Of
there unless
something.
she's observing it in others. You can't tell that. This is why, like, so many. It's going to be dark, but if you're in an abusive situation, and that's all you've ever known. Until you see that it can be different, that is just you kind of accept the reality of your situation and you just get on with it, right?
It might be that, I think the way that it was written was like she couldn't contain the magic, so she made the others. And then in like developing her clutch, you then like look back and realize what I was experiencing.
When you
was
said a clutch, I
loneliness.
just got this idea of like a really small little bag and then like a dragon.
She's like, she's got a
she's got a little
clutch.
clutch. Oh, I feel so complete now.
She's like, I need some fashion. Let me just take some clutches.
Yeah, exactly.
So I agree. It is
Seong, you're so fashion forward right now. Sorry.
It could be like upon reflection, she realizes that she was lonely. But I will agree, there are a lot of metaphysical, greater questions.
How does she make the others? I mean, if she's just water, how does she make what? I'm confused. It's not
I don't think they're going to touch it. I don't think they're going to go into it, because once you start going into that, you get into like a Shadowlands era, and then everything that you've developed kind of starts to crumble. And I think
like
just
how
like,
was
boom,
the world
boom, boom,
created thing. Yeah, like that God mode. There's going to be people thinking there's flat theory. There's going to be like, there's going to be loads of theories out. It's going to I know that, but then why go there, right, in the first place if you're going to have those holes, I suppose.
Okay, I accept that they can go down a rabbit hole, and oh my god, nobody wants the Shadowlands anywhere. That was a complete shit show. I agree. I played it. It was not good. But here's the thing. I think they said that we would know and we would understand the Elder Dragons. Hands up, everyone who knows and understands the Elder Dragons.
Understands the Elder Dragons.
You get a little bit at the end of the final meta. You can go talk to her. So
and it's really sweet stuff. I love it.
It's sweet. It gives more character to them. And
I wish it were incorporated into the story.
Yeah.
I actually agree with what you. I mean, I think this was something that I was really worried about with this expansion, because I felt with each expansion they have a great introduction, rising action, and they have a really good climax. But in terms of the falling action, or just giving some more story chapters at the end of your story, it always feels like it rushes a little bit, or they skip over 2 or 3 steps just to get to the end. And with this expansion, I didn't feel like it was as punishing as it was like for Heart of Thorns. But I would have liked maybe 1 or 2 more story steps in Echovald Wilds to explain why they're coming together, to show like Ayumi like going to the different leaders and being like, hey, we got to get together, like this is something greater than us. And maybe even have another story step in Dragon's End to just have that like final story beat with the dragon cycle and all of that. So it wasn't as rough in my opinion, but I will agree that there could have been 1 or 2 more story steps.
Is there like I want to be very cautious the fact that we've gone way off. We've gone way off.
It has to do with Echovald Wilds. The story of like the speakers and
the story that happened here.
That's true.
And some of the story that should have happened.
Okay, that's all right then. Okay, good. I needed that.
Thank
needed
you
all
for
to
saving
tell
me.
me, because like that's okay. No, not that I don't like hearing about it. It's just like it could take us down a wild ride where we barely talked about Echovald Wilds, and we started talking about something which is related, but not really. But maybe it is encapsulating maybe the story of all of the zones, and maybe just the expansion as a whole. Maybe Echovald Wilds and other zones, new zones, feel a little bit hollow. Excuse the pun. I don't know. I don't have another word to use. I'm not sure, but like. I just had a thought as well, and it's something where my mind went to Twitter, and then my mind went to all the devs, and it went to all the people talking about the stories in the game, and all the small stories that occur that are that feel very fleshed out at times because they're easier to do. They're personable. They're stories we understand because they're real within our own lives or within other people's lives or on TV. Or in movies and things that we kind of get and understand. They're not open to massive interpretation, which I think is fine, which is like, the dragons being born, how the hell did all this stuff happen? Why did they create this dragon? Why does anything exist? Really existential, like, like, what is my life meaning? Like, it's like those questions are dangerous in games.
If they're dangerous to humanity, they're dangerous to games.
There you go.
No, right. No. No.
What? Oh my God, there's a stop.
You have a stop sign.
What?
No, you're wrong.
No, I
Okay.
haven't stopped my point. That's not my point though. My point is going on. I haven't stopped. I haven't finished it.
Go on.
What my point is I wonder if they have, barring that other stuff, because I don't really have many feelings about that. Barring the other stuff, I was thinking about whether or not there were so many smaller stories going on that maybe they just had too many. Like they had so many stories going on that there was maybe there's a small story here which was very cool, and it kind of went through the expansion. We got the books, we got all that kind of stuff. We've got other mobs which you see maybe their story developing through the maps. Maybe stuff which isn't as important as the dedicated overall story arc of the entire expansion, which maybe was not abandoned, but like could have had a little bit more to it. I don't know if that's a thought, or if that even matters. I don't know if that's anything to do with it. It's just a random thought I had.
There are many side stories. I think that the problem is the way in which they deliver it. They are not something that you can keep track of in your story journal. Sometimes you can keep track of them in your achievements tab, which is why I love Arborstone. But once again, it's more so just the UI. How are you going to direct people to show them your stories that you develop? And
it's not done
I
very
guess
well.
you could make an argument that you don't need to do it, and the fact that you just come upon them organically is nice in and of itself. But if you just rely on that, while it might feel cool, you might also leave a portion of your audience feeling like they didn't get the full picture.
I think that happens a lot in Guild Wars 2.
Yeah.
I think that happens way too much. I feel like they just need to put quests in sometimes. I totally
the
respect.
journal.
Yeah.
Make the side stories its own column.
Absolutely.
Make
And they
your
have got a
elite
side
spec,
story
yeah.
bit, but it's not obvious.
It's in the achievement tab.
Yeah. It's just not. And the thing is this, we equate the word achievement to something extra, to something like we can go and do, which isn't necessary. Whereas I think the amount of effort and how good the story is in Guild Wars 2, these side stories, which in all honesty sometimes feel better than the main story. Like, and I'm not saying that to be mean or anything. I'm saying that because those stories are easier to tell. Like, they're just easier to tell. They're just really, really well constructed. I'm not saying End of Dragon's story isn't good. I really enjoyed End of Dragon's story. And every single game I've ever played has always got plot holes that we can pick out, which is kind of what we're doing. But I don't know. I genuinely feel like I know Guild Wars 2 wants to be different, and I applaud them in every way for this. But there's some things where just having a quest marker over the top of someone's head to start something different, like where people can get involved and then engage in the maps, so they can then go back to the maps and be like, oh, there's a quest, look at that. Because how many people are that anal that they will go and complete every single exclamation point above someone's head? I will do that every day. I do not care. But like, do you know what I mean? Like, sell your game, sell the stuff in the game which is genuinely amazing, like which is genuinely awesome. I don't think they do it very well sometimes. Like, maybe in a trailer sometimes, you've got, oh, check out these side stories in Guild Wars 2, or you can meet blah, 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 who likes, I don't know, sexy books. Do you know what I mean? Like, and that whole thing was pretty awesome. And like, do you know what I mean? Like, it could just be done in a way in game where people would spend more time in the game collecting these bits and bobs, because you can get some cool armor, you can get some cool achievement points towards getting this chest, or you can get these awesome rewards. Like, sell all this stuff. Sorry.
They've started to a little bit. Like there are more markers on the map, like with the
Yeah, that's
Arborstone
true.
stuff. And even with the elite specializations, this is the first expansion where there are markers to indicate the elite spec mentors, but they weren't
That was
used
cool.
to introduce the quest line to get to train your elite spec or to get the armor or get the weapon. I thought that would have been a great way to just like
Such a good side quest.
funnel people into these like do this thing and this thing and this thing.
So
I kind of wanted to do that.
Starting.
Sorry.
I was going to say, I entirely missed Jury's separate adventures around Cantha.
Oh my god, yeah.
Why is that not there's voice
I
acting in
did
it?
see that. Yeah, that's the problem, isn't it? Voice over. Yeah, like it's the voice acting is not there, but they are there. I have actually moved around different maps. I actually got that
Jory's?
straight afterwards.
Yeah. Jury's
There's
is
a little
voice.
bit of yeah, there is voice acting in it, which was
Not all of
surprising.
it. Not in the
everything.
not in the maps though. When you go to see her, she's not voice acted.
When you like finish the mark, like certain things, she'll speak and it's
Oh,
voiced.
okay. I haven't gotten that far. Maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe it's just the in between bits.
But I didn't know that quest had existed. If they're happy to have these green stars on the map, and they're happy to have different coloured stars when you're going back to revisit the story, can we not just have something that indicates, if you look over at that character, they've got a little white star above their head.
Yeah.
Oh, they've got
And it
something
can be
else
tiny.
for me. Yeah, exactly.
I mean, there are like, it's like the star and the stamp and like two side things. They do have something like that.
But you have to get on it first in order to see them.
Yeah,
You have to kind of unlock that.
And it's
Yeah.
not like it's in the story, or it's not like the side
not
story
obvious.
tab is showing you that this is a side
It
story.
just needs to be obvious. It
And
just
also,
needs
like,
to have obvious.
that Marjory thing
This-
is straight up a side story, but it's not categorized as a side story. It's categorized like under Arborstone, which is
Yeah.
different.
Yeah. Because I was literally right before we went live, I was actually in Arborstone, and someone was like, why am I in this map? What can I do? I feel like everything's done. And we start listing off all these little collections and achievements and things, stories they can follow. They're like, they had no idea
Yeah.
that these things were there and why they would be interested in doing them.
But this is the thing as well. Like, it's not like it's a new thing for Arena to do. They did it in Guild Wars. Like, they had quest markers above people's heads, the green exclamation marks, right? Like, so they've already done it before. So, and it's not like it's a main story thing. You can find people in maps, you can find people in the cities where they've got these things above their heads. And I know the whole Warhammer Online quest system and event system, which they borrowed from, like, you know, they wanted to do that system, but it doesn't mean they can't combine these things, because like Rift did that. You know, Rifts were live events. That's what Guild Wars 2 took that idea from Rift as well. You know, that was a live event that was just located in one area, but they still had quests. They still had a quest log, which you've got in Guild Wars 2, but that's more of a story log, which you kind of go through episode wise, which is like a book, which is cool, and that makes sense. But like, just to give me a damn journal, or give me the you know what would be cool? If you could make, you know, if we were able to, like ESO, if we could have like mods in the game and people could work on this stuff, so that you could install mods so that people could create stuff where you can build your own things and you can put them in the game, and you could have someone who would make this stuff for them. It would be so cool, wouldn't it?
The lack of control is scary.
I tell you what, if you go and play Elder Scrolls Online or even World of Warcraft and you play with mods that really help you to give you more access to things that might be more difficult, like it's like mods are about accessibility for me, and for a lot of people, I think.
I love them.
It's
I would
so
not
good.
be an opponent to that, but in terms of like a company standpoint, they probably don't want to like let that go.
Oh yeah, that's just a separate silly point. I was just like brought my microphone. It was more of like, here's my horse. What's the word?
Your horse.
I don't know. I'm getting on my soapbox. There you go. I'm getting on my horse.
Oh, you're on your high horse. You're on your
High horse. There you go. The horse box.
I was like,
you say horse
where
box.
were you going with horse? So confused.
Someone else talk quick. I talked for a long time. I'm just very passionate about the whole like the whole quest log thing, because I do often come across these things in the game, and it's like, you know, Fornax is a very, very good point, you know, and actually Guild Wars 2 made a tweet about Marjorie's adventures afterwards, because did you see that? I was like,
they probably had
don't
data that
do
no
that.
one did it.
That was like the worst thing. I feel like that was not a good idea.
No,
it
they
pointed
probably
out.
had to.
Yeah,
because
no,
they
they
probably
did.
had like internal data that said like no one did it. So they were
Exactly.
like, oh, maybe we should like.
But, like,
I
that
didn't
was-
know about it until I saw the tweet. Like,
It was so funny. I was like, oh damn, Marina, they're basically saying we have not been able to point people to this successfully, so here you go, this is the thing. And it was like, oh,
which additionally is a
man.
problem because so few of the players actually follow ArenaNet's Twitter account.
Yeah, exactly. Like, where is this in game? Like, this is the
I mean,
alert.
Marjorie's like in Arborston with a thing above her head, so it's. I mean.
Kroof, people aren't doing it.
Yeah, people aren't doing it, but it's also like because Guild Wars 2 is not a game where you historically had to do that. It's not
No,
like
exactly.
ingrained in people's minds to go up and talk to people. And it's also about reward. Is it something where like you knew the reward? Like that's another thing you have to think about. Like with the quest system, the quote unquote quest system that we have, you only really get achievement points. And because there isn't this like horizontal progression of like you're always getting better armor, it's like, how do you incentivize people to do these side stories, not just for achievement points?
Just like a simple weapon skin themed on the story would be really
you
cool.
got Marjorie's greatsword. You got her greatsword,
just-
but it was like a cash shop item, so it's like a
Yeah, see, but
yeah,
Maybe
put
you
it
get
in as-
access to buy it on the cash.
I've
yeah.
actually seen this complaint a lot, or this suggestion, this wish and longing, where more skins were rewarded for achievements. Just over and over, I've heard it, where if at the end of an achievement you get a hat or a dagger skin, it doesn't have to be a huge, intense design effort, but
It just
I would
if it's
do it.
rare, people will get it. Yeah, you're right. You're
Yeah.
right.
it doesn't even have to be hugely rare.
There are still those like Tengu sword and dagger skins that look more like a traditional katana, and I don't think they're in game where like the players can use them themselves, but they've been in the client since Heart of Thorns, and I was really hoping to see those be earnable skins, but they're not, and I'm like, they look so good because they're just like simple and sleek and sharp.
I keep hoping they're going to retire some of the Black Lion skins. So they've been there for 10 years. When it hits 10 or something, just let it drop off and dump
So
it
things
into the
become more
game.
rare.
Yeah, well,
Oh, so they begin. Oh no, yeah, that would do
so
that.
they go into the game and then they can be unlocked via anything you like. But I mean, I don't think you should underestimate people's avarice for the story.
Mm-hmm.
So
That's true.
I want to know what's happening to these characters.
Yeah,
A lot of us play
absolutely.
for the story, and I think that the problem I have is that Final Fantasy XIV has just destroyed me for any other story medium, because they deliver it so beautifully. They have the build up to the tension. They have this massive like moments and massive amounts of feeling and emotion, and you care about the characters, and they respond to you like you're a person. And then you also visit them when they're processing their grief, or you're after a battle and you're trying to kind of emotionally get yourself together, and they do it all, and you're with them and you're in. And that's why there's a weird amount of thirst in the Final Fantasy 14 community, but
But you're
people
so
are
invested.
committed.
You're invested in the first.
Very
Well, 100%.
That too.
I need to get to this point because at the moment I'm playing Final Fantasy 14 for that Crystalline PvP event, and that's pretty much what I'm playing right now.
I'm actually like a few quests before Heaven's Ward.
Oh, nice.
I've
Oh, we're at the
actually
same place.
seen. I've seen some of that like emotional response because a character had died, and then we went and visited their grave, and I was like, I actually really like that they're going back and spending time. And to kind of connect that to Guild Wars 2, that was kind of Marjorie's story arc with this expansion in a way, and that little side quest was kind of akin to that. But yeah,
But why-
continue.
Yeah, that's true.
Here's
actually,
my
that's true.
question, right? So we have Marjory, we have her with her katana with her sister's soul in it. Why is she not here? Why
Revenant.
Yeah, exactly. No, well, Revenant, maybe that would be awesome. But I mean, why isn't there any interaction? What was the point in this, the soul going into the sword if we were never going to see her again?
For a cool visual effect.
But it would have been so cool.
Used your loved ones today as a cool
Yeah.
visual effect.
I'm going to use you as a
New
prop.
with End of Dragons. Kill your entire family to get a special unlock on your
Oh
weapon.
my gosh. Casimir is shook.
Sorry. It's a bit dark though. It was worth it though, it's sparkling.
I mean, do we want to talk about like that story beat? Or like is that fair
What
game?
story beat?
For like Marjorie's sister and like that end story bit.
I think we'll probably leave that for a story specific podcast.
Okay.
Yeah, we're in a place now where we're talking about kind of the map, and I want to see if we can get on with maybe talking about some hero points or like parts or other areas of the map maybe that we're enjoying. That we enjoyed the meta maybe, just because it is almost 2 hours and 40 minutes since we started.
Yeah.
And we probably should talk about the map. I love that we can, yeah, I'm going to blame the Herald here. Sorry. No, because you're the first person I saw.
I would love to talk about story with you any day, Fornax.
Yeah, it's good.
Oh,
We can do
I
that. We can
love
bring
the
people
narrative.
back for the story. It's okay.
No, we can't, Jebro. That was our law. This is Otterscotch's only episode.
Only
wow.
ever. I know. I'm like just completely disposable here. I'm just a warm body.
Oh, wow, Kroof.
Love you.
Absolutely rude and terrible.
It's Joko.
Look at Crichton's face right now. I mean, very
No.
sad as well.
very sad, Harold. You're very welcome. It's lovely you being here.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, and I really, the story, like, we will definitely talk about that in future. If people want to come on for that specifically, they are more than welcome to. What was I going to say? Other stuff about the
Hero
map.
points and stuff.
Yes.
Okay, so there's this mini dungeon, and I think that Fornax mentioned it earlier, where you have to do this quest, light a torch, and it lets you into this mini
Yeah.
dungeon that's filled with tortured ghosts that just need,
Great.
that one was really cool. But
I'm
I think
trying to
going
find
back to like the side story tracking issue, if I had not looked it up in the wiki, I would never have known how to start that, how to get in there. That it was even part of the thing. But once I got in there, it was a really cool little series of a little bit of story there. I loved it.
So tragic. So tragic. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, and really just eerie and haunting the deeper you delve into it and the more you hear about just how these ghosts happen to be. One major point of confusion though, why were there so many dredge? Was that a Guild Wars 1 thing?
Yes.
Okay.
Dredge are in Cantha. Apparently, like, they dug through the center of Tyria to make their giant tunnel, and they went from, like, core Tyria down to Cantha. So technically, they are a part of Cantha.
Okay.
They also
Yeah.
had they were also like fleeing their slave busters, the dwarves.
Mhm.
So yeah.
The dwarves.
But it wasn't really
Yeah.
brought up in Guild Wars
I had
2.
no
They're just
idea
like-
how they got there.
yeah, they're like, you should have played Guild Wars 1.
I did feel a lot of points in all these little side quests and stuff, like they were trying to not be too overt for the Guild Wars 1 players, to the point where it made it really obscure for the ones who had never played it.
This was a good.
Like-
Yeah.
Like in that dungeon, I'm like, I have no idea why there are dredge here, but it's cool.
Yeah, that's true. Some explanation some places is good.
Oh, that little side quest, that one was so cool.
Oh, I did this for a daily.
Oh, this event, the event. Well, I did this,
For
and
the
then I went
void.
to Is it Vosberg? I can't remember. But like,
I think it was the
Vosberg,
Vosberg.
yeah, this is the Vosberg. Like, this bit was cool, but it was bugged. I think. I'm not sure if it's still, or if maybe that's the light one. I'm not sure. I can't remember now. There were so many
This
different ones.
It's
One
the
was
other
not.
one.
Yeah.
It's the other one. Okay. This was pretty cool. And I did like the events. I think there was just something about Echovald which I couldn't hook onto. Like, I was, like Kroof said earlier, like, I was so hyped for this map. Like, from that one image that you mentioned, because I knew what image you were talking about. And the front door of the like cathedral or whatever it was, covered in branches and roots, and It just looks so epic. And then like it kind of looks like that for Arborstone, and there's this really cool corridor with like all the branches and stuff like in a circle, like circular corridor, and it's very detailed. And then there's the portal to go through to the zone. And then I was like, oh. And then it was, there were these moments. There was one area which had like the top of this cathedral or whatever it was that was just hollowed, that like the roof wasn't on there anymore. There was like the tops of trees, like stumps and stuff, and there was branches and stuff around the top of this area which was quite open, and you could see down into the main way. This is where one of the waypoints was. It's not Harpstone, I can't remember where it was.
It's like House Zuhelzer.
Yeah, that's right.
It's like their main place. I forgot. I think, does it have another name? I forgot.
No, it is House Zuhelzer. So it's where they're basically doing archaeology there.
Right. That place is really cool. That was a really nice place. But yeah, it was just traversing around like the meta. Should I tell you what I didn't really like? And I didn't really like the meta area at all. It just looks like, I get it, like it's just a junkyard basically, but like it just felt really.
It's a very tidy junkyard.
Yeah, I don't know. I just didn't like it actually. In all honesty, I just didn't. Yeah. It just felt like it was there for the meta, and that was it.
And it. Now that we're talking about it, it does. Echovald feels the least finished to me.
Yeah.
Because not only is that the staging for the meta, but it's also for a strike mission. So it's something that you already experience in the story and daily if you do, and weekly if you do your strike mission. So it doesn't, that meta doesn't feel as cinematic. The asset is really cool, but in terms of the environment, it doesn't feel like it's its own moment within the expansion when you compare it to the other meta events. That's like, if I can go that far to say that.
Yeah.
I can kind of see that, yeah.
But
is it a matter of familiarity? Like you see it too much and that's the only part of the forest that you see because you go straight there, or is it?
I think if you do strike missions, you're very often seeing that specific arena, and it follows the same layout of you fight the boss in one location for a certain phase, then you go to the next one, and then the next one. It's the same exact layout. So instead of fighting a certain character, you fight the meta event boss in the same layout. Granted, the boss has different mechanics, but it feels like a very like an old hat.
Does it follow the same path?
Yeah, it follows the same path, except it starts at the top and then it goes down, and then it follows the same path.
I see.
I feel like they missed a trick. I feel like they could have had the battle for the meta in the ruins of one of these old buildings. Yeah. And then it would have been so much more beautiful. They could have really made it interesting rather than these green weird wall things that are just that are stacked. No, it's not good. It wasn't good. I don't like that.
They could have been in a giant cathedral, and then as the stages continue, like it shatters the roof.
Exactly.
And it breaks down the walls.
That's true. And, like smashes the walls and stuff, and the whole thing
and it
is
changes the environment.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, it felt very. When you go there as well, it's very just disjointed. It feels out of place, and I get the story, the idea of like why it's kind of there. I think, but
at the same time, it just isn't.
Or is there maybe? I don't know.
So,
is there an explanation?
What that character is?
Kind of, or as in the world, the boss of the open world thing.
Yeah,
so
that thing. Yeah, but like the actual reason why the rest of the junk is kind of there, I guess. Is it just
it's a junkyard from the city. It's them just compacting all their trash.
There's just literally that, right?
There's side story about people complaining about the forest getting slowly, like this junkyard's been expanding, and there are people who live there who are furious about it.
Yeah, I remember a little bit, but not much. Okay, cool.
I think that's a good
character.
Go on.
I'm like, why is that the character? Because everything else seems to have like Aether Blades for the first one. New Kaineng is like the defense system is attacking the ones it's supposed to be defending. And then Echovald is just like, it's void.
It's well, actually, it was the Jade Brotherhood tampering with the junk and trying to make a big thing to hit things with.
Yeah.
Okay, so I did not get that.
Yeah, you if you show up before the main group hits the junkyard, then you hear I think it's wardens yelling at them to stop. They'll just make it worse.
Okay.
Yeah, because it goes out of control, right? It gets out of control, and that's
Pretty
what happens.
classic.
That's what
Yeah.
we're there to do. Okay.
It's basically to highlight the dangers of the tech being overridden by the chaos magic, and it's and it's the unifying moment where they both realize that it's out of both their hands and that they need to unify.
Yeah, if you stick
that's
around
right.
after the meta, just off the field and far too hidden, you find a group of like 5 NPCs who talk about, oh my gosh, how bad this is. We really do need to unite after all.
Yeah.
And that's all you get. And they're not even in the field. They're just off to the side.
It does feel so. Then it feels like you're interacting between. It almost feels like you've got this main story which goes through Echovald, and then you've got this story which is happening, which is very important to it. And it feels like you've got this here. But where's the bit which bridges? Like, where's the bridge between these two stories, which are really the same story? But it's just branched off and needs to come back. Okay, yeah, that actually makes a lot of sense. I'm kind of working this out in my head, by the way, as we go through it, because I often feel like that in Guild Wars 2. Whereas I know I haven't finished Shadowlands, but at least I followed the story because it was very linear and it was there.
Yeah.
The information is there. You've got the quests, and for whatever. It doesn't even matter if the stories are good or bad at this point. You know, at least the story makes sense and it goes along in a logical order. Like, it's there. I don't need to go off too far and just try and get this main story arc understood. But maybe through Echovald or maybe through End of Dragons, that isn't as obvious. I know we understand the overarching story of End of Dragons. Spoiler alert, please stop listening now. We are there to do a thing. Okay, maybe I won't even do that. We are there to basically save people, kill a dragon, do the things. Like, we get it. Yeah, like that's Guild Wars 2 up
Very
until now.
common ground with
Like,
Guild Wars 2.
Yeah, it's the same thing, and that's okay, and we're glad that it's kind of stopped. I mean, I am. And they've done it. They did it okay. The general idea of that, cool. But when you need to go from A, B, C, D, E, F, G, all the way to Z, and there's just massive sections missing, and like, oh, I thought there were this many layers in the alphabet. Oh, there's actually only 7. I'm just going on some weird story now. It's just like connection is important, like getting people invested in characters. Like, you're talking about Final Fantasy 14. I've just started to witness that experience for the first time, which is about where you are, Kroof, I think. I'm a little bit ahead in the first expansion now. I really
Bring
do get
tissues. Bring tissues and not for what you're thinking about. Yeah.
Wow. There we are. It took 3 hours. I know that was fun. I know Final
Fornax
Fantasy
did warn us. People are very thirsty for the Final Fantasy 14 cast.
But that's
I don't understand it.
I mean, Oriente,
take a
sir.
while. That's true. It actually almost took like 3 hours.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. They're pretty. I'm Demi, so I don't get it. I bounce off the glass. I have to care about someone to actually like have feelings or anything, even like Biss. Yeah, I don't understand thirst. It's weird. It's a weird thing for me. Yeah.
People are horny on main.
Yeah. They're also no, but they're also horny for Emmett Selk. And when you play through it, he is not a good person. He is not a good person. He's the kind of person who you couldn't sleep with because you couldn't keep your eyes off him in case he just, I don't know, does a genocide
so
accidentally. Jesus Christ.
All right, don't tell me anymore. I don't know what those guys. I can't remember who this is. Oh my God, what's happening? I couldn't sleep with him because he might commit genocide. I'm just like, where are we going with this?
Dude, it's for real. It's crazy story.
Okay.
It's brilliant. It's the best story I've ever played through in any game, not just any MMO.
Elder Scrolls Online, I adore the story in Elder Scrolls Online.
Oh, it blows it out. So I played that as well. It blows it. It's different. It's more. It's realer. You feel it more. I've never cried so much playing a game and like tears of commitment and joy. It's crazy.
Oh, I haven't cried yet. I'm waiting because I'm hearing such great things about Final Fantasy 14, but I got through A Realm Reborn and this like side, and I'm like,
well,
it's okay. Like, I'm not crying.
No, Realm Reborn is bollocks.
Yeah,
it's not good. It's like playing through vanilla World of Warcraft. There is some story there, but you just don't
World
care.
of Warcraft is okay. Right?
It was okay, but there wasn't a cohesive storyline running through it all, was there?
No, but I was a dwarf, and that's all that mattered.
Yeah.
I don't care about anything else. I could be a dwarf. That's why I still like World of Warcraft, other than Blizzard being complete C words. Arseholes as well. Okay, so
yeah, agreed.
They're getting better, at least. A little bit here and there. We'll see.
We'll see.
Okay. We got some faith. At least that their round tables were good and they were inclusive a little bit more, and there was some forward thinking there, which was good. Unfortunately,
roots up work they need to do still.
Yes, the community is.
It just scares me that they're using their staff as a merkin for their naughtiness. You know?
It is.
It is like you kind of have to overcorrect though.
Yeah,
in a way.
There's not if they don't. Yeah, they don't go in that direction. Yeah, they have to. I guess it's very difficult. Like they've got a lot of work to do. But I think anyway. Blizzard is another podcast.
Yeah, I was like, there's other things that could be said, but that's way off.
Yeah, that's not even the same game.
Yeah.
I will actually be doing at some points after probably May, I will start to bring another podcast in when we talk about MMOs in general, and there will be a separate podcast, and that will be a thing. Yes.
I would love to talk about WoW because I played it since 2006.
Oh, there you go. Well, it'll be all MMOs and comparing different things. I've had this idea for a long time. People know about it. It's just school is a priority, so I can't do more than one podcast a week, and I can't even plan for this one. My basic plan was talk about Jade Bots and also Echovald Wilds, and then leave the rest up to you. And as per usual, we've had a great show so far, but we probably need to get on or maybe finish our thoughts and maybe even finish the podcast. I don't know, because we could probably talk for a long time. But also, is there anything else about Echovald Wilds that people kind of really liked and enjoyed?
Pause.
Put your hand up.
Hold up.
Okay.
How did we go this long without talking about Mori Village and the Tengu?
Well, that's not my fault.
Thank you.
Y'all, this is not okay.
Where's my footage?
I actually had a note to remember to talk.
Oh, wow.
The Tengu.
Yes, the Tengu, Mori Village, the little kids who go off to play hide and seek.
The fledglings that you fight and beat up.
Have you got footage of this? Does anyone want to chuck some footage of this? If you've done it in a stream
uploaded
recently,
anything, dang it.
Okay. No worries. We don't have to. We can talk about it.
I love the archery contest. However, it always makes me mad that it overlaps with so many so many aggressive NPCs coming messing up the archery contest. Because I just want to go shoot things.
I suck at that event.
I love it
so much.
I love the Tengu. As we all know.
Really, Kroof? I just wouldn't have guessed that. From
really
every
hard.
single podcast.
This is so hard to come forward with. But I really love the Tengu. And yeah, I was just like, I was super excited to see more of them and to see them in their element. And I think the architecture, their houses, it's like they're setting up for a playable Tengu. Like Dominion of Winds, I can see Dominion of Winds coming in the future, because you went to the effort of making buildings and like set pieces for the Tengu and like sigils and all that stuff and shrines. So I just love Mori Village. The music there is such a statement piece when you walk in. I think it's like the only area that music plays. It's kind of like Prickle Patch Hollow, how the Choya have their own music.
Love that.
The Tengu have their own music.
Yep.
And it's got a lot of character to it. The fledglings, you also fight the fledglings, which I'm not in like agreement with fighting children, but talk shit, get hit.
Wow.
Especially when they're Tengu.
Wow. If they're Tengu, they can just allowed to do whatever they want. Okay.
At first I thought that was a bug, because you're not like technically supposed to be fighting like fledgling, like underage, but I guess they're not humans, so it's fine.
Yeah, that one's odd, but I do like the lead in when you're talking to certain ones and they're all like, I can do it, I can go survive and do everything and explore the world, and you're like, no kid, no you can't.
Oh my.
Fornax, any thoughts about
I'm
Arena
thinking about
doing something that Bethesda refused to do?
so in Kroof, in your Tengus are coming. Is the Dominions of Winds their starting area?
For
Is that
me,
where you? Yeah.
yes, it would be
God.
Dominion of
We're
Winds. That
going
would be
down
my-
there.
Because that's where it was intended to be,
Yeah.
supposedly. So it'd be cool to go back.
Before they did Char, they were going to do Tengu, and then they redirected.
Which actually I think was a cool thing. Like,
Yeah.
I agree. If you had to cut one or the other, I would have kept the char.
Uh-oh.
That's a hot take.
Uh-oh.
That was a hot
Simply
take.
because of how it draws in this fun conflict from Guild Wars 1 players.
Good job, Fornax, with the reaction there. I like how you're laughing as
welcome.
currently you talking as well. It's just like...
Sorry. I haven't programmed a laugh yet, but oh shit, I'm gonna have to.
I think
You are.
I would agree overall, but like I just the hunches on the Char. I'm like,
Yes.
stand up.
I would have redesigned the char
Yeah, a little bit.
a bit. There are design choices I would change. But lore-wise,
if they were stood up though, they'd be taller than Norn. They wouldn't be able to get through some of the doors.
you know, the world wasn't built around char, so they can,
Ooh, there we
do
go.
that.
Oh,
Oh,
tea.
we're gonna put char accessibility in the Mental Health podcast in May. Yeah, that makes sense. But like they did it with orcs in Guild Wars 2, right? And in Guild Wars 2 in World of Warcraft, right? You can have them standing up, or you can have them slightly.
And trolls, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah, that's true. Actually, that's very true.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm surprised you didn't take the Tengu conversation much further, Kroof.
it was an easy question to answer.
Okay.
See, that's the problem. Is it's too easy. Yes, they were
like,
awesome. I love them
Would
dearly.
the Dominion
we need
of
more.
Winds be the starting area? Yes, absolutely.
In Arborstone, there's this Tengu. There's a couple of Tengu who are actually going to the Dominion of Winds and talking about it. And I'm hoping that we get to like ride in on their coattails and just like let us in the door too.
I mean, Calidris is there. We already know someone who's in there. She's in
Yeah.
the Erie doing mail delivery. We're gonna like, hey, we're like the guard's like, you cannot pass, and we're like, hey, Calidris, we know her, and they're like, okay, you can go in.
See, what I wanted was I wanted to get to Cantha via the Tengu. After we had that strike mission with the one that you just mentioned, I can't pronounce that name. I thought that we were going to then talk to them, and then they were going to go back to their ancestral home, or there was some sort of, because that's where they came from, and I thought that they would take us to Cantha with them, and that's how rather than flying into the mists and doing all that stuff with my Trin, which was completely superfluous to the story.
I kind of loved it and thought it was a spectacular lead into the expansion and completely subverted my expectation of the Tengu being our route in.
Yeah. Did you think that as well? You think
It was one of the possibilities very strongly. I expected the first instance to be us going into some like little pocket of the Dominion of Winds, them saying, oh heck, there's a problem. Our relatives are reaching out for help. And that leading us in.
Good.
I totally agree, by the way, with the kind of the spectacle of the jumping from ships and everything. I'm kind of sad that wasn't anywhere else as well. That was absolutely brilliant fun.
I agree.
That was good. It was a good introduction. Echovald, Tengu.
Oh yeah, sorry.
I'm listening. I'm good. I'm just chilling. Okay. Is there anything else we want
Did
to
you
talk
like
about?
the Tengu, Jebro?
There was there was some events there that were cool. I think Tengu are okay. I'm not like a massive like Tengu lover like you. I'm more of a dwarf lover.
Wow.
I would say.
You
But,
know,
like,
they put the untamed NPC in the village just to give the Untamed a little bit more chops.
Yeah, right.
So to be clear,
dear.
Shorty's
Even
not
a
furries.
Tengu, was it?
Yes.
Shorty's not furries. Oh my god. Are they furries? I mean, they're furries? I don't know.
Yeah. I agree that in Mori Village, there should have been buildings that we could have gone into. Same problem as like
You're right.
a lot. Because I would love to see, what does a Tengu home look like? How do they live? How do they sit down, for goodness sake?
They do sit down.
But like in their home.
They probably
How-
do,
what do
Kroof,
they
yes.
sit on?
Yeah. Did they go to the bathroom as well?
That
Kroof?
was so aggressive. That was so
They do sit down. They also go to the bathroom. They also eat food.
This is
That was
why
so aggressive, but it's because I saw a Tengu. I had not seen a Tengu sitting in a chair ever.
Yeah.
But there is one NPC that I know of where a Tengu is sitting in a chair like a char.
Oh, you need to take a
does.
picture of it and tweet it then.
It's in the ward in Setang Province.
Take a picture and tweet it out.
Yeah.
Tweet it.
Yeah, please do.
Yeah, please.
It's the Bureau of Transport.
Huh?
The Bureau, when we have to go and we get
Yes, it's by the transport
gosh.
one, and they always have a
Yes.
conversation about going to June's party,
yeah.
and it's a
But this
Tengu sitting in a
is-
chair.
This is why I actually love Divinity's Reach. Out of all the home cities, is because you go in, there are beds, there are tables with food on them. You can see how they cook their food, and this is something that I miss in all the other home cities, in all
You
the
miss a
expansion
good,
cities.
like cooked meal.
Yes.
Okay.
No, that's my chef is for. No.
That's amazing.
Can
But
I
just
point you
seeing them live
to
there.
the home instance in the Grove? If you go up, so above onto the roof, there are spirals going up, and there are beds, there are tea areas, there are people living up there. So that's what
Yeah.
I was wanting.
The whole city needs that.
Yeah, at 100%.
So we need we need to be able to go into a home instance and maybe
Don't make it instance. Make it out in the open world.
do that.
Like-
then. Okay.
In Divinity's Reach, you can blast right in through somebody's front door, run around, kick over their beds, and run out the back door, and like
Wow.
you can, you just go through. And I'd love for an NPC to yell at me and chase me out of their house, but
So we know that Scotch is basically just an intruder into people's homes. That's something I like to do daily.
I just love seeing how people live their lives and creep in on them and see how they decorate their bathrooms.
I get what you mean with that, like the whole culture.
Yes.
It's a story which you don't see, which is untold. Like you don't necessarily need to hear about it. You can see it visually.
You can see it.
Yeah.
It's a common storytelling thing, especially when you get into graphic novels, is the show don't tell. You've got pictures to work with. You don't have to put it all into words. Just put a half-eaten piece of bread on the table and show a person not eating it, like to show that they're stressed.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense.
They could have also reinforced the haves and have-nots thing of the city.
They talked about that a lot.
They did, but I don't actually think that Kayang is a pretty city. I think it's ugly, right up until you get into the very rich areas.
Damn.
You missed the Kainang City podcast for that one. I wonder what we said. I wonder if we said that. I'm not a massive. I like the lighting, the holographics. I like a lot of it, but I think the buildings look too. I don't know.
Well,
Yeah, I think we came to the conclusion that it wasn't differentiated enough between like the economic levels.
yeah, and allowing us to go into, or at least having a few open homes where we can go in and we can see the difference between the rich and the poor, the haves and the have-nots. But I think that it's not meant to be beautiful in the lower regions. I think it's a story mechanism so that you feel the dirt and the decay and the lack of care, and then you go up you sort of like ascend the social ladder as you were ascending into the map, and you're seeing cleaner streets, better clothing, better housing, and more greenery. So, and that's a huge thing in inner cities, where very wealthy people have very green spaces and very poor people are kind of locked out of those. And that's a huge thing. Yeah.
Yeah, Kainang City. I actually like the poorer
Green,
areas.
the color of money.
true.
The old city, the place where it hasn't been developed. That's my favourite part of the city.
Yeah, it looks better. It's got
It
more
does,
character
yeah.
to it. It's got more like.
I
depth.
wanted it to be filthier though. I
It's
wanted it
called
to
the
be, like,
slums,
sewer.
right? The
Yeah.
slums. And it's not slummy at all.
It was too clean, and it
Yeah.
actually, that was one of the first things I commented on when getting into these areas is, where is the detritus? Where is the scattered, forgotten mess of life, where people have things that they lose?
It was
they
where those
discard.
worms were on the top of the roofs, you see.
Yeah, that's it. That's all right there.
Got maggots, you're good.
That was literally the only, like, you know, I don't like slums as a word to describe an area as well in the game. It's probably not very 2022 as well. And just anyway, thinking about a different way of explaining things and where people live generally. Like, you know, that's a word that's probably going to get slightly filtered out in the future, hopefully. But like, there is an expectation with what that word would bring, I think and feel. But like, yeah, definitely. But like, in terms of Echovald Forest, did we have enough? Was it just
Tengu?
kind
No.
of? No, I guess. Was there enough variety within the map to make it feel like it wasn't just the same thing over and over and over again, and there was different miniature? There wasn't, because like
it was the pockets of things is it reinforces that feeling of corridors, because you could have this feeling where they're roads, they're thoroughfares through a living place, but you have the Brotherhood camp, you have the Warden camp, you have Mori village, you have the ruins there where there's the archaeologists, and there's no interflow and interconnectivity between them. You have scouts, and that's really the only living sentient thing that you run into between the city or the camps.
There wasn't enough for the environment. When I look at the concept art, I understand concept art, you have a lot more freedom with that. But seeing some of the concept art pieces, like the loading screen with the cathedral that looks like you can walk into, with the other concept art piece where it was like a sprawling flat landscape with water and the like just giant thick trees like ascending into the clouds, I would have loved to have seen someone's breaking into Jebro's house. I would have loved to have seen at least like an area of Echovald Wilds that was less compact and more like just giant trees that still had their leaves, that still had a sense of like life to them. And maybe that could have been like Lake Lutgardis, because that area, it's like water, there seems to be life there, and maybe that could have been like the trees are intact and there's a sense of like the Tengu are there, maybe some like Kurziks are there too. There could have
been
just
keeping it alive.
Yeah, there could have been like, not that every map has to have a capital city, but there could have been some central location where like your allies congregate and feel.
This is
more
a
like
map. It would have made sense to have that, exactly.
Yeah.
There's no differentiation between the different villages. They just look like they're being copy pasted.
a little, yeah.
Yeah,
Some
well, the
different
homes-
clothing.
Yeah. That would have been good.
Because like a person, people look similar from same geographic regions. You can have the same thing with birds. Every tufted titmouse is going to look like a tufted titmouse, but you can at least give them a different jacket.
True.
Sorry.
I was just a tufted titmouse.
Tough tit.
Sorry. It's this wonderful little bird that looks like another bird that cedar waxwing. That's one of my lifers. I want to see a cedar waxwing in real life. Anyways.
Oh, you're a Twitcher. Oh, that's lovely. And not that type of
Birdwatcher.
Fine. Yeah.
I grew up. One of
That's
my
cool.
dreams in middle school was to participate in the annual migration count. This is me.
Oh,
Anyways,
this is real. This
the
is
thing
We get
being
to
that with the
find out many
Tengu,
things about many people in this podcast.
with the Tengu, they're birds, yes, but they can wear different things and ornament themselves. And it's yes, sorry to completely.
I
No,
love
but
that.
there's
That's
no
cool.
idea of what these people are doing to make a living because they're not being represented. They could have shown them working, so they could be a place could be gathering the wood, a place could be crafting the wood. There could be like cultivation sections. There could be a druidic section where they're trying to because there was a whole load of talk about cultivating the forest and the forest coming back to life and they could have really built that into the story. And I feel like it's just. They didn't have enough time to put it in, I think, maybe.
It could have been a place where they're sacrificing Untamed. Yeah, that would have been great.
There you
That's why I
go.
really hope. I
Proper
really
depth
hope
to the culture.
we come back to Echovald Wilds specifically in season 6, and on top of that, get another map in Echovald Forest. I really hope they give more justice to the gangs themselves because they felt like side characters in the overall story of Cantha.
I think they kind of were in a way.
Yeah, I feel like End of Dragons, it took place in Cantha, but didn't have much to do with the Canthan culture and the Canthan story. That's why I hope season 6 it dedicates it to Cantha instead of us like have a map in Cantha and we go back.
Yeah, it did feel like, you know, those dragons, those people are there, but they are very. Whereas I think most people, I think they were definitely servicing people for sure. Don't laugh at me. I can even tell what Gright is thinking right now. Even though. Without anything, even just through the avatar, it's great. And do you know what I mean though? Because like,
Oh yeah,
there was always like, we got to
to
go to Camphor, we have to do it because otherwise, you know what, people are just gonna get really sad. But also we need to do this story. Let's just wham bam, thank you ma'am, all into one go, and that's cool. Like, how can you do no? Like, how can you calm down? Just because you get a haircut, you know, I don't know. And like, I just got nothing
I
to do.
love servicing people. Wham bam, thank you, ma'am.
That's my
it's so bad.
American accent. But like, I think they probably could have made in End of Dragons more of a Seitong Province, Kainang, and maybe even ended in Echovald Wilds and actually had like, you know, or even half, and kind of just developed those maps a little bit more, made them more fleshed out, maybe gone through that story a little bit more, and maybe even just carried on the dragon stuff afterwards. I think they had a tall order to compact everything into like just End of Dragon, like into
And
the
you
maps
wanted
that they've
more
got.
maps, Jebro?
No,
You wanted
but like,
more maps?
No, that's what I'm saying. They could have had more maps, but just not gone as far as the other places, or maybe not done those maps specifically. So you've got Echovald Wilds, then you've got Echovald Forest, then you've got like, I don't know. Do you know what I mean?
Could like split Kainang into 2 regions too. Like, there's a lot of ways you could cut it up.
Oh hell yeah! Like Seitong Province, Seitong Province is like how many? There is like 3 biomes in that. There's like mountain area, there's a water area, and there's like the forest, and there's just like, it is so huge. I forgot that it was one map. Even during the
Xinjie
podcast.
has been split into 2, which I was like kind of shocked. I was like, because during the live streams, I thought they were just showing Seitong Harbor, and I was like, oh, I can't wait to see the rest of Xinjie Island, because in the first game it was just one map, and then I was like, oh, I guess it is really big to the scale of Guild Wars 2. So I really want to see the rest of. I mean, they seem to have done that kind of, because I want to see the rest of Xinjie. I want to see Drowned Kainang. I want to see the rest of the Echovald Forest. And also there's like Kirin Peaks, there's the Turtle Highlands, there's the rest of the Jade Sea, which we haven't explored. So that's why I think season 6 will just be Cantha. And I'm excited for that.
The northeastern part, the ruined part,
Yeah.
of Kainang City is wicked. It's so good. Like when you can go down into the ruins and you're in the water where, I think that's the drowned area like maybe that's going towards anyway. That down there, the story's down there, and also loads of stuff. And there's the jump puzzle, which I've still not done anyway.
It's not difficult. It's just long.
Okay. Oh, it's the patience thing.
It's good. I recommend it's good.
Yeah.
Okay, fine. I'll go do it. But yeah,
it lets you explore some of the really cool ruined areas.
I like
see,
ruined
like,
areas.
even see assets that they don't use. Like if you look
Anywhere
beyond,
else.
it's like
Yeah.
those like giant towers that
Yeah.
are like oldish and kind of crumbled, and you're like,
I'm
oh, I
hoping-
wanted more of that.
When we get to Drowned Kainang, because it's the way it's depicted in the world map, we're gonna get it. I hope that it's more of that.
It's written in there as well, isn't it? Is it?
Mhm.
I was looking at
Yeah.
that the other day.
They're really alluding to it in the story too.
That kind of rickety bamboo towers is actually how it looked in the original game.
Oh,
Is it?
okay, cool.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Awesome.
One of those just constantly under construction kind of places. Where there's
It's-
always
yeah.
scaffolding up.
No. I mean, like, if you think about
Yeah,
a shanty town,
Yeah.
Ah.
it was the
actual-
so
It's like the
in-
favelas of Brazil.
exactly, and it speaks a lot to the inherent inequality in Canthan society, where the very rich had enormous wealth and the very poor had nothing, and that
Kind
was
of like where we're
portrayed
going
very
now
well.
in IRL, really.
I think we're already
Sorry.
there.
Yeah, we've been there
We were
for
there.
many years.
But that they didn't shy away from it in the original game, and they really showed how the poverty affected and and that was where the gangs originally were in Cantha, was in the city, taking advantage of the poor areas and just turning them into war zones. So, but of course it wasn't the poor people who were the problem. It was the gangs sponsored by the very wealthy people who were coming in and just fucking up the shit that they had. So, again, yeah.
Okay.
I'm excited to see Drowned Kainang and who's been living there and what it is, because
The dwarfs.
there is somebody living there. Yes, there we go. Surprise dwarves again.
Yay! I'm gonna be like this every single time. I'm gonna be, please. Well, I just want to be a dwarf, man. The only thing that sucks about Guild Wars 2. I can't be a dwarf. Okay. We're gonna end it there. Unless there's anything else anyone would like to add, we're gonna end it.
I don't know. I just like to say that I think that they could have put more story in without having to add any more maps, because story is just the characters, and they don't even have to voice everything if they can't. I feel like they need to give us a more fleshed out story so that people are more emotionally invested. And again, they did the same thing that they've done every time. They introduce a character, Joko, Vlast. Before we get to know them, before we can build a connection with them, they murder them. And I don't know why they keep doing this.
Who is the
why?
character for End of Dragons?
Why? I just.
Are you speaking about a particular Aetherblade?
Well, so yeah, I mean, so we do. There's a shadow of a good story. There's a shadow of a good story in all the places, and we're just lacking. It doesn't have to be big, flashy new assets. It doesn't have to be big, showy events. It doesn't even have to be voiced. But for God's sake, write the story down and have your character stand around doing like arm movements. Jesus Christ, if I can do this, they can do it, right? Yeah, it doesn't have
If I
to be.
can rate a 2D illustration.
No, but I mean, it's just a case of standing them in a room.
Yeah, just put
and having
Harold
them
in the
talk
game.
to us. Just let them talk to us. Let them share their stories with us. And make it so that if people who do not care, they don't care, they can skip, they can click a button, they can walk away, they don't care. But at least the foundation and the story is there for people who are there and invested in it. That's my. Okay, I'll shut up now. It's fine. I go back to my corner, sad face.
Oh, don't do that, sad face.
But I think that was a really cool point where they could have ended off at Echovald, because they kind of did that with Path of Fire, where we diverted.
You're
we
right.
completely diverted from Kralkatorrik, and they told a different story for a little bit to build up the area and let you get to know what was going on there. So, the people, the history. You learn how they're reeling from the changes in the world that we've been making.
Even that wasn't great still.
No, but
The
was
ball
a
kind of
lead.
got dropped during like the Domain of Istan, or like Domain of Vabi
yeah.
and the Ellen Riverlands. I kind of slipped a little bit.
Yeah.
As it's always the end. It feels like each expansion they really have yet to like hit a really good end. It's like great beginning and middle, but like the end is just like, oh, what happened?
I didn't even realize we'd got to the end. I was ready to continue on. And I'm like, what? Hang on, is that it? What about all the shadow magic? We haven't resolved anything. What about the separatists? What are we?
Season 6.
Are you kidding me? Are we done?
Season 6.
Yeah, there's still more to go. We're not left the region yet. There's still more to go. Yeah, they have to pop in like a very basic story into expansions. You know, it's like Path of Fire, Kill a God, like and the dragons, kill a dragon. It pretty much does what it says on the. I know Path of Fire. It's the Path of Fire is Balthazar. He's the path, etc., etc. It's very like Heart of Thorns, kill a dragon, and they kind of do. Oh wow, they did 2 out of 3 with that. And the god's really just a dragon anyway. So it's like they have to make those. That's the. So I guess I get what you mean, because I think expansions are intended to be kind of very easy to follow in a way with like a main story, but they do have these side stories to keep, I think, like the core veteran or the core like player of Guild Wars 2 encapsulated and stuck in the game, so they can try and work out when these stories get continued. I don't know, or where they get told, because sometimes you just don't know, like with Majory at the end of the story, for example. It's frustrating. I understand that as well.
I think you can have a satisfying conclusion to a chapter without necessarily having to close every thread. The whole point is that it's an MMO. You want all the threads to lead on, but you can have a satisfying feeling completion. And I think they could have had it with the defeat of Suwan. I just don't think that it didn't. I don't know. There wasn't that crescendo, and then and now we're going into the prologue. I felt like it just kind of fell off for me.
That felt very disconnected. But, yeah.
Not to like. I want to say this so bad because it's like.
Is it really story?
Do it.
No, not really, but just like, it's about Suwan's character at the end. Like in other games, you usually have that climactic moment because the person is like totally either like evil or turned. But in the case of like when you have your enemy, but they're also your friend, and they're conscious about it, it doesn't feel as like satisfying because you're like, oh no, like it's like we need to do this, but we don't have enough time to build up that emotional point because it's been only like an hour total that you've been in the game. So it's kind of like,
yeah,
it either should have gone like full good or full bad, but it was like this weird middle ground where it wasn't as satisfying.
They didn't give us enough time to get to know her. And this is why I kind of objected to Maitrin. It's not that the Maitrin storyline wasn't worthy, and it wasn't that she didn't deserve some sort of redemption, because I would like to see Minister Lee's redemption. I think it's good for someone to watch a person go from a place of hate and a place of mistrust right the way through to seeing themselves, having an honest moment, and then coming out the other end as a better human being. I think there's a huge amount of value being able to see goodness and potential in someone who has been despicable, because I don't think anyone should be disposed of because they've had a bad idea or they were led down a bad path. So I think there's a huge amount of value there, but yeah, I don't know. They just, I think they just need to allow us to get to know the people in the stories, so that all this build-up and all their work can have a proper emotional payoff, rather than us be like, well, we want to care. We're here. We've got our money. You've got our attention. Please let us have the time to be with this character, to build a connection with them. Or strap on a pair and kill one of our companions.
Oh, Karen Howard.
I'm surprised no one died.
And there's a whole if we do come back and talk about the disability, I want to talk about the absolute crap show that was Taimi dealing with her disability.
Oh my god, they didn't even. Well, I mean, this is we're really going off on one now. Like we are way out of the forest. We are.
We're out of the Echovald Wilds and
that
into
is
the Dragon's
something
End.
I would really like. I think we need to really
That deserves its own.
I think that could just be its own podcast because I'm pissed
Oh my
about
god, that chapped my balls. That chapped my balls so much. That is not how people deal with living with disability. Get the fuck, Jesus, swearing much.
Okay, so to some perspective, I have a brother who deals that way a bit. Like I see a lot of Timey in him. So, and like I said, this deserves its own whole thing. And I think that there was a mix of good and bad. I really wish they'd given some more resolution to Timey and how she actually thought about everything instead of just.
I mean, it wasn't the good place she got to.
Mm-mm.
That wasn't the problem. It was the fact that we were not. If this, they set up her journey in the story, the prequel that they did to kind of key us up,
the
and
trailer,
they set
right?
up.
It actually felt like it was going to be a major part of the story. Yeah. Is that what you mean, Harold?
I wanted to follow her through this story. I wanted to see her deal with this illness and to come to terms with it. And it's the erasure of her journey. Yes, I'm sad. I'm limping off. I'm really worried. My illness has come back. It's going to shorten my life. This is bad. And it's hugely bad. And then we see her in some braces and she's having a wonderful relationship with this person who she clicks with on an intellectual level. That's great. And you can be lifted hugely by just a connection, an unexpected connection, right? Mm-hmm. Absolutely. But then there's none of the middle bit whereby there's journey. There's no journey, there's no learning, there's no pathos, we just get to the end. Oh, I'm feeling all right about it now. How? What happened? Did you?
That's actually that is not just applicable to Timey. That's how I feel about Bram and Casimir and Marjory, because there's a lot of I understand in terms of narrative, Bram acting the way he does, but when you're telling a story, you have to elaborate upon that journey and not just have these flash moments from time to time. You have to at least explain as to how someone got there a little bit better, and that might just be something that over the course of years, over so many story arcs, and the scope of the expansion, it's kind of do a character justice or do the overarching game justice. Mm-hmm. It's kind of
well, the thing is, it's an important that you have to prioritize a little bit with this, in my opinion. Like when you start to bring a really important subject or a really important group of people, who should be talked about and felt included in the expansion, we've got, which is what I think Fornax was saying earlier, LGBTQI plus community has been well represented in this expansion, to a degree, not in the whole game, but and I would argue more should be more so, but there is a highlight at the end which is very warming for a lot of people. I have a lot of people who have, we've seen Rook describe and talk about how much it's meant to them. We've got other people as well, even just even me, thinking about I'm a straight cisgender white man, and that scene gives me an enormous amount of joy from the clients and people I have in my, just that I counsel. And I feel they would appreciate this story specifically, and they would feel seen. I do not feel like people with disabilities feel seen by the story and the amount of attention that's been put onto Timey. I think that's something which is very missing. I often think we could do a lot better in many games. ESO has done a little bit of work on it. They kind of touch on this here and there. There's not many games that do it, and they don't do it well. I think it's something people are still trying to learn how to. I don't think approach is the right word, but I think they need people to consult with. I don't think they have those people. I don't know what you felt.
Oh, sorry.
So I was going to ask what if that was kind of what you were getting on to, I guess, Harold, with that. What I mean?
Don't tease that you're going to have a storyline that follows a disabled person through the expansion. Don't tease that if you're not going to pay off. If you can't pay off, that's fine. If you've got other things to do, that is fine. That is fine. You could do it through side quests if you wanted her to have that journey. You could have done it through text. They have the text system for storytelling. And if they want to have it like that, that's fine. But don't pretend that you're going to have it and then not have it.
And I'm sorry, I misunderstood your direction earlier with that. But they did make it seem like she was going to be a main character.
Yeah.
Thanks, Kroof.
I guess.
Thanks for that really important breath moment.
I wasn't going to speak to the storyline of what.
Those were I was wondering. I was just adding more breaths because I was wondering if I could I just wanted to input my breath into the.
I wasn't going to speak to the topic of telling a story of a disabled character, as I'm not as comfortable speaking on that subject. But in terms of the LGBTQ representation, we got more of that with Casimir and Majory, yes, but I still feel like the stories that they want to tell, they don't necessarily have the either the funding or the amount of time to tell it well. Because we had that satisfying moment with them getting married in the same way Taimi kind of has that satisfying moment of getting her braces, but we missed out on the journey. And throughout the Iceroot saga, we had them fighting a lot and there was a lot of tension, but they didn't dedicate to show that, to tell the journey. It was just, as I was saying, flashpoints, and you become confused as to what these narrative characters are going through. And even in the expansion, they seem to get along, and everything that they were going through maybe with Iceroot Saga just ended up not being an issue. They're yeah, we're fine, we're back together. And it's okay. And they were still very separated in the expansion. Casimir was doing her own stuff, Majory on her own. And then at the end, they kind of are yeah, we should get married. And I love it. It's great. It definitely needs to be a thing. But as I kind of was saying, it's maybe what they want to do and what the stories they want to tell, it's just the scoping and the budgeting just isn't in the cards. So I think that is a problem.
I mean,
especially with Taimi's story as well.
I think one thing I think, Fornax, I think you're saying is because you felt oh wow, there's this subject is being brought up. I feel included more in this trailer, more in this lead up, it would be a feature. Then I was kind of let down.
I mean, it's not because I'm a disabled person. That's
okay. That's fair.
But it's because I want them to do justice to the characters that they have, and they've been brave enough to have a person who's lost his mother, a person who's dealing with grief. They've been brave enough to have, in this very turbulent world, some of the primary characters, and again, being openly gay couple who are deeply in love, but who don't have either a terrible relationship or a perfect relationship. They actually have a relationship, right? And that's wonderful, and that's what I want to see. And I'm going to push back and say that here's how Final Fantasy managed to have the massive story they have with a third of the budget of World of Warcraft. They pick the stuff that they voice. They pick the key moments that they have their voice actors in there, and they have those moments, and the rest of it they still film it in the kind of the way of a scene. You guys are going to experience this a lot if you're going to play through the story, and I highly recommend that you suffer through it and do it, because it allows them to have these wonderful deep stories and do it on the budget. So they frame the scene, they have the characters as if they were going to be voiced, they go through, they do the voice boxes and the talking and the text, and that allows you, for only the people who are interested, to follow the story, and they can do it deep and they can do it long, and it doesn't have to take up massive amounts of volume of game. It's just somebody sitting down, setting up a scene that you can interact with as a player or not.
Just a filthy person, yeah.
What?
No, not you.
One thing.
No, not you. It was the other people. It was all of us. It was we're talking about deep, long, hard things.
You can do it deep. You can do it long.
I think that
shit.
with the characters in Guild Wars,
Oh shit! Yeah. Guess what? Oh, let me say you were sad for like a second, but we can see you laughing. We know this is you. No matter how serious we get, we're still there. It's okay. Everyone.
I genuinely, it was not intended. I did not mean
No.
to
We
make-
know.
No,
we
it
know.
wasn't.
That's
Your
happened to me
point-
countless
Your
times.
point was very well taken. It is a good point. You know, it is knowing those moments, and I keep hearing how Final Fantasy is doing it a lot better than they used to, and they do it very well. And I think
I would give a long for them to actually voice all of it. They could have it literally half of my organs if they would just voice everything. It would be the best game ever if they would, honest to God. But you have to be satisfied with what you get, and they do some of the most impactful story ever. I promise.
They do what they can with what they have.
Exactly.
Yeah. I think one of the things that I'm constantly disappointed in Guild Wars is because I want to care so much. They have these characters with such potential depth and such amazing stories and so much to them. But it's almost like they're afraid to tell a not world-ending story when they have these characters that could drive the entire, like Timey alone could have driven the entire expansion because of the potential depth that she has.
Yeah.
And that's why I'm disappointed, is because I know what they have and what they could do.
I think it's difficult with with how they set up the game anyway. You know, with metas like being so impactful in like the open world, it's like all this stuff is so impactful. Like in Elder Scrolls Online, they're actually doing a really like different storyline with their chapter this year. They're doing it's a political storyline. They're actually going to try and end the Three Banners War, and they're just going to this island, and they're literally like, there's people trying to make sure it continues. There's people trying to stop it. Like there's these like kind of organizations, like charitable organizations that want to end the war because too many people are getting hurt. Like it's really gone political. Whereas the last one, you know, they've had Skyrim, they've had flipping vampires, they've had dragons they've been trying to kill, they've been like, you know, and then suddenly they've just gone into this real political kind of smaller, or it feels like smaller, but it's still really, really impactful because it's the Three Banners War. It's Cyrodiil, you know. Elder Scrolls is based massively around this one thing that's just always happening forever, and it is so doable. And I don't think we've really ever had that, other than, I would say, Evan Nashblade versus Thingy for the being Mayor of Lion's Arch or whatever it was. You know, I think I that is like the only instance where I can remember a storyline which felt quite big and impactful. But you know what actually had one of the biggest impacts on the game as a player choice? Like, because we had the choice between two different representatives and changing literally how much something is going to be, like a dungeon or a fractal, and like costs of things. Like we never had like so much power. We've never had that power in the game since that moment. And it was based around a political, smaller story inside one city, really. And that impact is something we've not had since then, I would argue.
Oh my god, you're gonna fucking love Heaven's Word. You're just gonna love. You have
Okay.
to come and talk to me after you finish playing Heaven's Word.
play it
okay,
tonight.
please.
I started it.
It's so
I can't remember
good.
where I am.
Oh, it's so good. So good.
But I think, if
love
not
that.
expansions, seasons are a great format to tell those smaller scoped stories. And that's why I hope that we stay in Cantha throughout the season, not just one map, but really explore the politics around the Empire and also the gangs and how they integrate into the system of the
The
politics.
Empire was like,
Yeah, the Empire of
Oh my God.
Cantha.
Sorry.
Maybe
yeah.
it'll be their chance, since there is no longer a big world-ending event hanging over our heads. Maybe they will get to focus on the characters and let them drive the story.
Like
Hopefully.
the Empress.
can hope.
Like the Empress.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh my gosh, she was so featured. Another character that was featured
Yep.
so heavily in the trailers.
Yeah.
It is weird, isn't it? It's like,
It's almost like they had a different story planned
Yeah.
from what they showed us. Like,
It is strange because Kate, they probably storyboarded it, but during the first look, they never even mentioned Kaith, and Kaith was never brought up until the very last trailer. And then I was like, oh yeah, it makes sense Kaith would be around, but they never just mentioned. And she ended up being like a pretty, she wasn't like amazing, but she had like a really strong role with Oreen. So
we've gone way off, so I think we're going to end.
Sorry.
No,
Okay.
Fornax, I want to give your subject a podcast. Like, I feel like it's going to be a good accessibility part of that, but I also feel like it could be a part of like an entire podcast, because it's like, I need to give that the attention it needs and deserves, and I want to do it justice. So I've got work to do on that one myself, in all honesty. I'm excited because I've got a lot to learn. I'm learning so much from just my kids, like specifically that I counsel, like that are transitioning, that have disabilities, that have ADHD, that have everything under the sun. Like, I'm learning about all these conditions as well as how to support them. And then I'm like, how is this represented in the world? How do kids grow up in playing video games when, you know, they don't understand what is going on with this person, or they are someone with this condition or something similar, or something where they can be like seen in a place and then that isn't paid enough attention to. Do you know, all these different things that are so important in games that I'm learning more about, I guess.
Do you want to leave on a high note that I did notice that was wonderful in Echovald, which is like super fucking on topic for me? Yeah. Okay.
Definitely.
In one of the Echovald quests where you have to disguise yourself, you get a choice. You can have a male appearance, you can have a female appearance, and you can have neither. You can have a
I loved that.
Yeah.
Sorry. Yes.
No, it's true.
It was
That's
very
brilliant.
good. That was
a nice
picked
touch.
that out. I tweeted that out, and it got like, I think it was almost 1,000 likes or something. It was like so many people will appreciate that. Very, very, very true. I can't believe we didn't actually talk about that. There were so
Well,
many
we just
things.
did.
We
We
technically.
did. We
Yes,
did.
we did.
Yeah, but it was just, and then, but that was part of. That goes hand in hand with kind of the Casimir and, you know, that story, and like that contributes to that and that theme, and that topic and everything. I feel like I'm minimizing it, but like, yeah, you're absolutely right. Massively important, and they did well. I want them to continue that.
One day, one thing that I really want to see in Guild Wars and in every MMO in existence is a gender neutral character. If they have to have this, you pick your gender at the start of the game, then give us a gender neutral in there as well.
Yeah.
Or just let us pick features.
Yeah.
Don't go with the gender binary at all. Just say my character has broad shoulders and broad hips and a waist. You know, like just let me construct my comfortable character.
There's some games. So I think I think my stream peeps in here will be able to talk about this as well. But I do that every single time we start a new game. But New World has, I think they've got shape. I think you pick, but you can have like typically like in a game where there are hairstyles only for females, they will be available for everything. So like everything is available, and you can have beards, you can have whatever the fuck you want. Like you can have like anything in each character model. The only difference is their frame, but there's only 2 frames. But New World is very limited that anyway, which kind of sucks. But like, what was the game? I think it goes for like body shape and everything. You know, like literally let me mold this character into what the fuck I want it to be. And you're right. Like people shouldn't be limiting themselves to male and female anymore. We're in 2022. Come on, people, let's get past this.
Cyberpunk did it. Cyberpunk did it quite well, and you could have a massive penis that like protruded through your clothes in Cyberpunk.
Cool.
Big dick energy.
Actual. I think
I gotta say,
Cyberpunk has many issues, unfortunately.
I actually relatively did Elden Ring. I did their character customization recently, and you have a decent. I was surprised.
That's
You have a
actually
decent
true.
amount of choice
Yeah.
to ride that line between the strict binary and the androgynous kind of gray areas.
Yeah.
So I liked that a lot. I was like, wow, you can. I was like, I can make my character something more feminine or masculine, depending on how I just want to do it for that character.
Yeah, there is.
So I appreciate that.
There is some.
If we're talking about like, Daddy, I want a pony, okay, then I would like to see the end of, well, not the end,
Gladiator,
the
that's right.
opening up of gender dimorphism in the dress, so that men can wear female attires and females can wear the
Please.
men's styles, and just let people
And why
wear
does
what
a
the fuck they
char
want.
need to have a male versus female, like
Yeah.
things like that? Sorry to
Yeah.
talk
It's
over.
like some
No,
of the,
you
some
I get
of the
excited about this
dress-
one.
Some of the dress on like the male versus female versions of the armor, I'm like, oh, I want that for like my male character. I'm like, oh, I want that for my female character. But it's just like it's locked behind. I'm like, and they're so
Yeah.
different too. Especially the outfits. Especially the outfits.
They are
Especially, yes.
wildly different. And even, but the thing is, that, do you know what gets me? What really gets me about the outfits changing? That even the hats are different. And I'm like, I
Yes.
get like the parts in different areas. I kind of get that because of shaping it to, you know, a typical male body chest or a typical female chest in Guild Wars 2, which we know what I'm talking about. Like, you know, I get that difference. I get it. But hats? Really? Like, there's a different female hat and there's a male hat? I mean, this style
and
here
then-
is weird. I don't get it. Please.
You see on the char how they are totally willing to just
Yeah.
horribly stretch the texture instead of repainting it. Like, if you just let me have that male armor on a female body type, I don't care if the boobs stretch the scale mail texture. Just let me have it. It doesn't need to be perfect.
Let the boys wear bikinis. They do it in Final Fantasy. The world did not burn down.
That's true. They
Everyone's
do do it in Final
happy.
Fantasy. That's correct. Yes.
And the fan art is just for, you know, French
Ooh.
kiss. Perfect. Yes.
Oh, I gotta go to Reddit later today.
Oh my gosh.
Oh god, Kroof is getting the first ready, installed.
Ooh, I'm about to be horny on main. My Twitter is gonna be amazing.
So I just saw Dusty chat.
Also, if you're talking about finance, it makes financial sense, 100%.
Yeah.
People would buy more.
Yeah, absolutely. It would.
People want to
So
be
if-
rocking up in their dungeon with lingerie. I know I do.
Yeah.
Not on my Lalafell though. That would be like
Oh.
my Lalafell is reserved.
Did I tell you about the lap dancing clubs in Final Fantasy?
I heard about them.
Okay.
I heard about them
Just
in the
so that
wind.
you
I heard the whisperings in the wind.
Lap
they sounded like,
dancing clubs in Final Fantasy.
You can
14.
hire courtesans of gender equal courtesans for the evening to entertain you in any way you want.
Oh, I'm gonna have to sub. I'm gonna have to sub to Final Fantasy 14 for that. That won me over. I've been on my free trial. I'm about to sub.
And you can do it in the knowledge that everybody is over 18 because that is the age limit of the game.
Period.
Oh, wait,
do
is
it
it
in
actually?
Guild Wars.
Is it
Yep.
legitimately an 18 game?
Yep.
Really?
I
Period.
believe so.
You mean like the ESRB rating?
Yeah.
I thought it was teen.
I thought I'm fairly convinced it's 18.
No, it's teen.
Oh shit! Poor people. People. Fuck. Misinformation.
Stop!
Hands out of pockets. Hands out of pockets. Yeah.
Oh my god.
They still have them. Oh my god. Be careful you don't
The
make it on the list of
courtesans,
something.
the courtesans are part of the adult group, though.
Yes, yeah. Oh god.
So,
suggestive.
let's
That's
go and let's move on.
The pod. Yeah. You're regretting asking me
Thank
on
you so much
again,
for
aren't you?
inviting
I
me to the
regret that at
podcast.
the
My
end of
name's
every single
Kroof. You can
episode.
find me at YouTube.
And it's the every end of every podcast. I would think you're both very welcome to come back on for, especially for May, because I need this. There's some topics we need you back on. I might try and make another overlay for 6 people as well. So hopefully that might be. Hopefully that's manageable. That'll be interesting. Okay, so yeah, Echovald Wilds and Jade Bot, as well as per usual, everything else in the game. We're there, we're ready. Kroof, yes, we're gonna go. Actually, I'm gonna say no one else can say anything else about it now because we need to go. Kroof, tell us what you do, where you do it, and thank you
No
everyone.
question?
No question, no.
Hi everyone, I'm Kroof. Jebro didn't ask me a question, but that's okay. I do some YouTube stuff. I have a lot of videos on my YouTube about Guild Wars 2 and even World of Warcraft, surprisingly. And if you want to catch me streaming here, I stream during the weekdays. I will have to recalibrate my weekends because I'm doing stuff. But thank you for inviting me. You can find me everywhere at Kroof. I do Twitter.
What stuff are you doing,
I'm on Instagram. Just showing my kneecaps, showing my clavicles,
Okay.
you know. But thank you so much. I really appreciate it. I had a great time. Thank you. Thank you.
And then Grind Harold's like the eyes on the outside. Oh, Scotch, tell us what you do. What you do?
I not as much as I'd like to right now, but I stream on Tuesdays at Twitch. I am Otterscotch pretty much everywhere. I occasionally post my arts to Twitter, and I'm hoping to bring back Felting Fridays, where we sit there and stab wool until it does our bidding.
Felting Fridays. There we go. Okay, I know that set Kroof off for some reason.
That was so dramatic. I loved it.
It's
Therapeutic
good.
seven.
Otherwise, I just say I sit there and I do crafts and arts and crafts. No, this is
Yeah, you sold it there.
cheese.
Twitch.tv/Scotch. And it was great to have you on as well. You're an awesome member to the popcast.
The Popcast.
Popcast. We're gonna call it a Popcast. So thank you for coming on as well. It's been awesome to have you here. And a Crying Herald who's been here before. Sassy as always. Tell us about yourself, what you do, where you do it. Yes.
So I'm Fornax. My channel is The Crying Herald. I'm on YouTube. I do guides. I do lore videos. I'm occasionally on Twitch where I stream. I've been doing a lot of World v World trying to get my legendary armor, so I'm probably going to be doing that this weekend on stream. And if you want to find out what I'm doing, I generally tweet out stuff that it's Crichton_Herald on Twitter, and that's me. Thanks for having me. Also, thank you very much.
Now, Jebro, what do you do and where do you do it? Sorry.
Doing right. Yeah. You'll be a great host, Kroof. What was that laugh? I have never heard that laugh before. I'm Jebro. Twitch.tv/Jebro Unity. Unity is the name of a guild that I was part of for many, many, many years, and has not gone away. And also because I can't have the name on anywhere because it is a construction company, apparently. Don't ask. I don't know. Who the hell calls their construction company Jebro? Like, really? Oh, good lord.
That is interesting.
It is interesting. But everything is Jebro Unity. I am a mental health counselor in training. I am graduating in June, which is going to be very cool. But then I've got to get my license and stuff. I'm in internship. I don't get paid. So my main source of earning money is being a poor student, but also Twitch and YouTube and all the things. So if you do want to subscribe for a donation, do all the things. Very much appreciated. Thank you for all the love in Twitch chat today. I know we've had a ton of gifting subs and stuff. So I really do appreciate that. There is going to be links. Also, Anchor is where the podcast is. if you want to watch the podcast, you can actually watch the VOD on Spotify now because they've got video options for podcasts if they are recorded. You can also watch it on YouTube, Twitch, and listen to it on a ton of services like iTunes, Google, all that kind of stuff. So if you want to go and check it out, check it out. I will have links to everyone where they would like to be supported. If they are affiliated with the game, then there is a link there where you can go and purchase the expansion if you want, and which will also support them, which is massively appreciated. I would very much appreciate that you go and check all of these awesome people out. May is going to be a good month. I'm going to try and orient the podcast around mental health specifically, but that will also mean like accessibility. That will mean loads of stuff goes in, will go in there. So it's going to be interesting because I've also got massive exam to study for, so we'll see how well that goes. I'm hoping it will. Otherwise, thank you so much for watching. Thank you, chat, for being here live. If you do want to come watch the podcast, they are normally about 12 p.m. Pacific. We'll have the tunes on at the very least, and we'll start shortly after that. Why are you holding a stick? What is that?
A wand?
A wand or a baton? Wand.
It's a wand.
Is that
It's
like...
my wand. It's my magical wand.
Okay. Yeah, you definitely need to go and watch the VOD because for Fornax is amazing. Oh my god. You are truly American. No, you've turned it into... Whoa!
What? That was a lot of emotion.
I tell you what, I am not even surprised at what your avatar just did. I am just not. I wish I could. I wish I could be surprised, but I'm just not. I just don't think I ever could be.
I'm gonna have to watch that back because whatever just happened, it was unintentional.
What, that was on? What is that?
Oh my gosh!
What happened?
It's a wave. That's a wave.
Oh, that's a hand. Okay, I was like, it does not look like that in Discord. It does not look like that in Discord.
I don't know what you guys are seeing. I just see a hand.
No, but like it's an English thing, but also something else. Let's end the podcast there.
I need to go pray and eat like the body of Christ or something. I gotta go.
Thank you so much, Kroof, for also thinking the same thing as me. See you next time on the podcast, which is not filthy minded one iota. Bye.